Chapter 1580. He had been waiting for a long time. Pa! Lin Feng's body shook violently as he suddenly opened his eyes, which were shining brightly. All the cells in his body were charged as if they were fully charged. Every cell had an extremely rich life force. His meridians were strengthened to the extreme. They were like a 10,000-year-old ancient tree with intertwined roots, forming the pillars of his entire body. Sizzle sizzle, astral source energy naturally seeped out of his body, clear and natural. At this moment, his entire body seemed to be made of astral source energy. The appearance of his power was as he wished, and his control was perfect. His constellation senses were unprecedentedly clear. At this moment, his entire body was perfect, as if he had built a passage with the boundless starry sky, opening an unknown door. What a strong power! So familiar, such a clear feeling. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Exhale, inhale, his body opened and closed as he took deep breaths. From Saint King advanced to peak Saint King realm, it took him 5 days longer than he expected. Fortunately, he had enough astral source stones to absorb quickly. Otherwise, even with his top-notch aptitude in the Douling world, it would take him at least a few years to reach peak Saint King realm. A difference of 1 level. However, it was a completely different feeling. When I was Saint King advanced, my physique had far surpassed peak Saint King realm. Now, it's even harder to estimate the strength of my physique. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he thought to himself. Especially his speed, which had long surpassed the limit. If it wasn't for the restrictions of the region, he could break which Emperor Zhang's strongest space Dao with just his speed alone. My body's toughness, defense, and the astral source energy condensed in my cells. Even if I'm not as strong as a great saint, I'm not too far away. But my strength should still be a little lacking. But this is compared to the great saint. If I were to compare to which Emperor Di Jiang, my strength is definitely stronger than his. Lin Feng nodded slightly. After breaking through to peak Saint King realm, he unconsciously compared himself to the great saint and witch Emperor Di Jiang. Now in the Douling world, he only had 2 true opponents, Di Jiang and the great saint. Of course, there was also the unknown apocalyptic fiend Celestial. His physical defense, strength, and other hard attributes were indeed not as good as a great saint's. However, his speed, agility, and other soft attributes were far superior to a great saint's. Compared to the shaman Emperor Di Jiang, he was superior in all aspects. However, it was one thing to have a strong body, but it was another to have a strong combat strength. If we were to fight in an environment where speed is not restricted, I might still be able to compete with Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, but in the Douling world, the current me is still no match for him. Lin Feng secretly nodded. He was very clear in his heart. In terms of the understanding and control of the Tao, he was worlds apart from the Sorcerer Emperor Jiang. Even now, he was far from the great sage. Whether it was the Tao of space, the Tao of metal, or even the Tao of strength which he was most skilled in, he was inferior to great sages in all aspects. To a Saint King, the existence of the Tao was the most important, because this was not only related to the strength of a Saint King, it was also the most important key to the path of cultivation. To become a starry sky powerhouse. In the star-stepping mansion. Finally, Lin Feng opened his eyes and sighed softly. Not long after his doppelganger broke through, his main body gradually regained consciousness. Even though his soul energy had yet to recover to 100%, his recovery of over 90% was more than enough for him to fight. Most importantly, he was able to fully display the Pangu technique. The clone's cultivation was 5 days later than he had expected, which was both good and bad. It proved that his clone still had great potential. The absorption of star source power in his body was quite shocking. Although nothing could be seen in the Douling world at the moment, since there was the existence of the limit of power, when he broke through again, every advantage would become a real bargaining chip in his hands in the future. It was like laying a foundation. The stronger the foundation, the higher the building. He did not immediately start the next cultivation. Lin Feng roughly browsed through the Pangu technique and felt that it was extensive and profound. It was different from the mysteries of the star techniques that he knew so far. It was like another school, as special as the death energy. However, it was undeniable that the Pangu technique was very powerful. In the memories of the main body, the giant Pangu who fought against the 3,000 demon gods of the demon clan by himself cultivated the Pangu technique. Although the battle in his memory was just some blurry fragments, he could vaguely see the outline of the Pangu technique that Pangu used. He could estimate that it was definitely an absolute power, at the starry sky level. He did not know or understand it, but it did not mean that it did not exist. Just like the gray energy, he did not know what it was, but its ability was impeccable and could even revive the dead. There were too many things that he did not know about in the boundless starry sky. He came out of seclusion. His main body had not recovered to 100%, so Lin Feng did not let his main body leave the heart-nourishing pool. Perhaps the Pangu technique in his memory was not fully displayed? In his opinion, the Pangu technique was only showing a corner. Although it was not a problem for him to cultivate and comprehend it alone, he still hoped to obtain more, or perhaps it would be more helpful for his cultivation and comprehension. Besides, the 100% perfect Pangu eyes was the power that his main body relied on the most now. Cultivating the Pangu eyes would be the best way for him to improve his strength. In time, when his main body and avatar stood at the peak of the Douling world, even if they were only on par with the Witch Emperor Jiang and the Great Sage, he would have the advantage of numbers. Then, the southern region would no longer be in an awkward position. Status needed to be supported by strength. Not to mention, there was an even more terrifying and unpredictable existence in the mysterious graveyard of the demon race. There was no end to the path of cultivation. His avatar came out of seclusion mainly to deal with some trivial matters. Even though he had entrusted the important task of managing the southern region to his father and Shun, as the human emperor, he could not just leave everything to them. That would be too excessive. At the very least, he had to know what had happened recently, what the witches and demons were up to, what the changes in the southern region had been recently, what plans they had for the future, and so on. However, there were many things that he did not need to do personally anymore. With his father's help, the burden on his shoulders was much lighter. In less than 12 hours after coming out of seclusion, Lin Feng dealt with some matters that needed to be dealt with, spent time with his parents, and had a reunion dinner that he had not eaten for a long time. Soon, he entered the star-stepping mansion and began a new period of cultivation. An unknown and powerful power system, Pangu technique. My body is not good. It was not easy for me to sprint for a while, but I caught a cold after New Year's Day. I only recovered after a week of rest. Xiao Xiao is really fragile. Chapter 1581. The Pangu technique requires the 7 souls to merge into one. Only astral warriors can cultivate it. Astral warriors will have to bear the consequences if they force themselves to cultivate it. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, but his heart was calm. When he first read the Pangu technique, he had paid attention to some of the problems. In the first 12 hours after he came out of seclusion, not only did he reunite with his parents and family, but he also reviewed the affairs of the southern region. During that time, he even used his main body to open the Netherworld seal and look for Toto. He didn't dare to cultivate the Pangu technique of unknown origin. After all, there were too many questions. However, while he didn't understand, Toto knew very well. Not only did Toto have an endless lifespan, he had also followed his master Bailey Feng to explore the vast world of stars. He didn't know the cultivation levels and methods after becoming a astral warrior, but Toto knew. In the Do Ling world, the martial god and war god are collectively known as celestial warriors. They use the human soul as their foundation and the body as their main focus. When they become astral warriors, they are known as warriors. They are the astral warriors that Toto mentioned. Lin Feng nodded. He could not help but recall Dwudwa's words. Dwudwa's words rang in his ears like a textbook, clear and natural. Celestial spiritual masters, heavenly soul cultivators, are collectively known as God cultivators in the Do Ling world. Their life spirit is the foundation, and their spiritual power and origin energy are the main component. When they become starry sky experts, they will be known as mutants, and are known as starry sky mutants. His main body walked the path of astral warriors. His doppelganger was an astral warrior. There was no difference in superiority between the two. In the vast and boundless starry sky world, starry sky warriors and starry sky ability users were two distinct factions, each with their own path of cultivation. As for the Pangu technique, it was one of the cultivation techniques of the galactic warriors. It was a special cultivation technique. According to Toto, astral warriors usually walk the path of cultivation based on their natal constellations. Absorbing and refining astral energy to improve one's strength, both externally and internally, is based on their natal constellations. It's a normal path of cultivation, strengthening the body and transforming the human soul. Depending on the aptitude of each astral warrior, there are different speeds, bottlenecks, limits, and so on. But this Pangu art is different. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. The Pangu technique was one of the special cultivation methods for galactic warriors. It did not care what the natal constellation of the galactic warrior was. It was a completely independent existence. The natal constellation was closely related to the soul. In fact, the soul of every galactic warrior would determine which natal constellation they belonged to. Because of this, even if his doppelganger belonged to the body of another galactic warrior, because of his own soul, his doppelganger belonged to the Ursa Major constellation. The Pangu art absorbs and refines the power of heaven and earth, not the orthodox power of the stars. Lin Feng nodded inwardly. This was the biggest difference between the Pangu art and the orthodox path of cultivation. For example, if he was a galactic warrior of the Ursa Major constellation, the astral energy he absorbed and refined came from the Ursa Major constellation's astral energy, which was the so-called power of the stars. But the Pangu art absorbed and refined the power of heaven and earth, which was the power of the entire starry sky world. It seemed good, but it was not. First, the power of the entire starry sky world was vast, but it was a mishmash, far less pure than the power of the stars. Furthermore, the galactic warriors of the Ursa Major constellation absorbed the power of the stars much faster than the power of heaven and earth. It was also easier for the body to absorb the power of the stars, and during battle, it could be transformed into the purest form of power to display one's strength. But so what if it was the power of heaven and earth? The advantages and disadvantages were obvious. Indeed, in the short term, the power of heaven and earth was not as good as the power of the stars, but this did not mean that the Pangu art was inferior. In fact, according to Duo, there was no accurate conclusion as to which was superior and which was inferior. But one thing was certain. In the long term, absorbing the power of heaven and earth would be more advantageous for a galactic warrior when he breaks through in the future. Lin Feng thought to himself as Dwudwa's words appeared in his mind. There were still differences in strength between galactic warriors, just like in the Do Ling world, the Star Sea realm, and even the Saint realm and Saint King realm. According to Duo, in the distant and strange starry sky world, when a galactic warrior's strength reached an unfathomable level, the power of the stars would be transformed into power of heaven and earth. And this level was something even his master, Bai Li Feng, had not touched upon. It was truly unreachable. This was secondary, The power of heaven and earth had many advantages compared to the power of the stars. First, for galactic warriors of the same level, the physique tempered by the power of heaven and earth was stronger than the physique tempered by the power of the stars. This was especially true for himself, as his physique and soul were not born from the same root, so the effect of the power of the stars tempering was less than 50% of the normal effect. However, the power of heaven and earth was different. It treated everything equally, so the effect was naturally better. Second, although the power of heaven and earth was slow to absorb and cultivate, it was not bad at all. This was especially true for galactic warriors, as the strength of their physique was quite crucial, whether it was in a battle against other galactic warriors or galactic ability users. Imagine a battle between two galactic warriors of the same level. Perhaps the galactic warrior was better at using the arcana, but the galactic warrior's physique was weaker than the galactic warrior's, so was the galactic warrior's speed, strength, and defense. Needless to say, a battle against a galactic ability user was even more difficult. Galactic ability users, who were known for their long-range attacks, usually fought from a distance and had superior attack power. However, galactic warriors who cultivated the power of heaven and earth were faster and more agile in dodging. Most importantly, their body's defense against the power of the origin was stronger. This was because the power of heaven and earth itself was mixed with all the power of the origin and could contain all the power of the origin. Of these two cultivation methods for galactic warriors, one required a faster cultivation speed and a higher utilization of one's natal constellation, the other required a stronger physique and a higher combat power of the same level. Of course, there was also a third reason that was special for him. To cultivate as a galactic warrior, one must wait until the human soul transforms and become a galactic expert, Lin Feng thought to himself. Only when the human soul transforms could one truly break through the limit and obtain the recognition of the Ursa Major constellation. Only then could one absorb the true power of the stars and embark on the cultivation path of a galactic expert. However, the Pangu art was different. It mainly absorbed the power of heaven and earth, so it did not require the recognition of one's natal constellation or the power of the stars. It only had requirements for the body. Only when the seven souls combined into one could one reach the foundation to withstand the power of heaven and earth. Otherwise, even a little bit of the power of heaven and earth would be able to crush the body. Now that his body had the seven souls combined into one and had reached the galactic level, he could withstand the power of heaven and earth. Even if he could only withstand a little bit each time, he could at least start cultivating. This was the most important thing. If he could cultivate the Pangu art, the strength of his doppelganger would truly reach the level of a galactic expert. In the future, it would definitely advance by leaps and bounds and break through to become a galactic expert. It was just a matter of time. Let's begin. Lin Feng took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Chapter 1582. The Power of the Stars. The Power of Heaven and Earth. The two were completely different. The power of heaven and earth was the most fundamental part of the starry sky world. The power of the stars, on the other hand, was the unique power of a certain constellation. Indeed, the power of heaven and earth was boundless and all-encompassing. In terms of power, it was stronger than the power of the stars. However, it was not the case for the true experts of the starry sky. For example, the martial artists of the Phoenix constellation focused on cultivating the origin of fire. The same amount of power of heaven and earth indeed contained the origin of fire, but what was the ratio? Within the power of heaven and earth, there was the power of the entire universe. Not only was there the origin of fire, there was also the origin of water, the origin of earth, the origin of wood, and so on. Normally speaking, it would be a mixed but not refined. However, the power of the stars of the Phoenix constellation contained more than 80% of the origin of fire. To the martial artists of the Phoenix constellation, there were many mysteries and laws that could increase the speed of absorbing the power of the stars. The efficiency of using the power of the stars increased by several folds. The power of heaven and earth could improve one's physique, so could the power of the stars. Although the effect was not as good as the power of heaven and earth, it could not withstand a large amount. Most importantly, the difference in cultivation speed was widened. Therefore, more than 99% of the experts of the starry sky would choose to absorb the power of the stars to cultivate. Of course, a large part of the reason was that the incantations for cultivating the laws of heaven and earth were extremely secretive and were rarely seen. According to what Duo said, even Master Bai Li Feng had never seen a single incantation for cultivating the laws of heaven and earth. Lin Feng pondered. Indeed, there are some experts of the starry sky who cultivate the laws of heaven and earth. However, it is rare for them to have great achievements. Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. The cultivation of the Pangu technique was very difficult. He had not even reached the first stage. The Pangu technique, that his original body knew, was only at the first level. There were a total of 3 stages. However, he had spent close to 10 days on the first stage, and still did not have a clue. The difficulty of cultivating and comprehending is actually a good thing to a certain extent. For the same type of mystery, if it is more than 80% difficult to comprehend, it might be more powerful than if it is easy to comprehend. Similarly, it's the same for the cultivation of the heaven and earth laws. Lin Feng pondered for a moment. Furthermore, perhaps every single cultivation technique of the laws of the heavens and earth is so difficult. This is also why the laws of the heavens and earth is not mainstream in the starry sky world. Lin Feng revealed a carefree smile. Am I comforting myself? He had actually hesitated for a long time. After all, if he didn't take the normal path, his future path would definitely be very bumpy. Moreover, he didn't know whether this Pangu technique was good or bad, whether it was a blessing or a curse. However, his doppelganger was very special. It was not truly a body born from the Ursa Major constellation. Perhaps it was indeed very strong now, but what about after stepping into the starry sky level? The problems they would face would not be few. Furthermore, what was the strongest aspect of a clone? It was not the so-called Emperor constellation of the Ursa Major constellation, but it was a strong body that had been tempered over and over again. According to Duo, the strength of his fleshly body, even if placed in the starry sky world's reserve interstellar warriors level, he would still be considered as one of the best. In the Douling world, he had great opportunities and amazing inherited strength, but what was it in the starry sky world? Currently, he was only a reserve interstellar warrior. How many reserve interstellar warriors were nurtured by great forces, super backers, and almighty experts who were billions of times stronger than his master? In comparison, he was really too ordinary. But now there was a path, an unknown great Tao. Although he couldn't see the future, but it was worth a gamble. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. The battle scene that he saw through the Pangu pupils appeared in his mind. It was very shocking. The master of this Pangu technique, Pangu, fought against 3,000 enemies alone. His domineering aura was heavenly. He could split heaven and earth. He didn't fall into a disadvantageous position. The 3,000 demon gods couldn't do anything to him. Those were 3,000 demon gods. They weren't the so-called demon emperors or demon kings of the Douling world. Every demon god was a true starry sky expert. However, Pangu could fight against 3,000 demon gods alone. How strong was he? According to Duodwa's evaluation, this Pangu had already reached the stage of becoming a god with his physical body. His strength was much stronger than his master, Bai Li Feng. In other words, if he could continue to cultivate according to this Pangu technique, His cultivation speed might be slower than absorbing the power of the stars, but his strength might reach Pangu's level in the future. Stronger than his master. Master is already famous in the starry sky world, but Pangu is even more famous. Becoming a god with his physical body is something that many starry sky experts can only dream of. In the future, I can also achieve it. Clenching his fists, Lin Feng's eyes shone with strong determination. I will definitely succeed. Again. Gritting his teeth, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. I don't believe that the first level of this Pangu technique can stump me. Time passed quickly. For the Do Ling world, it was currently in an abyss of suffering. The war between the shamans and demons was heating up. Some forces with ulterior motives were secretly accumulating their strength. At this moment, the demon graveyard was filled with a strong aura of death. A terrifying power was slowly recovering. As for Lin Feng, he was improving every day, getting closer and closer to the unknown level of strength. Almost. This is the feeling. Hurry. Closing his eyes, Lin Feng frowned deeply. He sat cross-legged with his fingers spread open and his arms facing the sky. It was as if he wanted to lift up the sky. He was cultivating and comprehending in a strange posture. His body was like a bridge. All his meridians were like rivers. His blood was like water. All his cells were moving violently. The first level of the Pangu technique took the longest time. It took him half a month to reach the beginner level. After that, he had to familiarize himself with it. The second level took him less time. It only took him 5 days to grasp the essentials. As for the third level, 10 days had passed. He had reached the level of activation. The activation of his body and the activation of heaven and earth. Until he obtained the recognition of heaven and earth, the power of heaven and earth would descend. This was the foundation and an essential step. Only when the power of heaven and earth descended and was baptized could his body accept the power of heaven and earth and enter a new level. From then on, his entire body would change. Even his entire path as a martial artist would be changed. He had already known this at the beginning of his cultivation. He had even prepared for it. This was an unusual path. However, once he embarked on it, he would not regret it. Come. Suddenly, Lin Feng opened his eyes. They shone brightly with a tinge of blood. The veins on his body bulged, and he trembled violently. Bang! Thunder seemed to roar in the sky. It was as if the wrath of heaven was coming. Hua! Tens of thousands of rays of light fell. Chapter 1583. The power of heaven and earth descended. It was a miraculous scene that suddenly appeared in the void. The transparent white light enveloped the entire sky. The powerful aura was far stronger than any energy in the Do Ling world. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. He felt his heart and soul trembling. Too powerful. This power was too terrifying. If this power wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as the power of thunder and lightning striking the body of an ordinary martial artist. Fortunately, this power wouldn't harm him. It was the symbol of the third stage of the Pangu art, baptism. Cleansing the marrow and meridians. Using the power of heaven and earth to reform the body and reconstruct it. Hua, as if he was enlightened, Lin Feng's eyes turned red. The veins on his clenched fists popped out. The heart-wrenching pain was more intense than any attack he had ever endured. The power of heaven and earth poured in with a strong purpose and destructive power. But. His body felt like it was shattering. His cells shattered and reconstructed rapidly. His skin cracked and healed again. This feeling was like smashing a porcelain made of copper and then casting it again with gold to make it sturdier and more valuable. However, porcelain didn't feel any pain. When used on a human body, the pain exceeded the limit. Just the pain itself was enough to torture an expert to death. Ah! Screaming in his heart, Lin Feng's body trembled violently. He gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. What kind of pain was this? Wave after wave, the pain was like a torrential sea. Wave after wave came crashing against him. To Lin Feng, it was as if he had experienced 9 lives of calamities. The seemingly harmless white light was like a gift from the heavens. It was so terrifying. If you gain something, you will definitely lose it. If you lose it, you will definitely gain it. After 6 hours, the baptism finally ended. Lin Feng was already exhausted. His entire body was soaked in sweat as if he had just been fished out from the sea. He closed his eyes without any strength. Even closing his eyes was a luxury. Perhaps fainting from the pain could save him from the pain and protect himself. However, Lin Feng didn't dare to take the risk. There might only be one baptism. Moreover, even if he could avoid the baptism this time, how many times could he avoid it if he wanted to continue cultivating the Pangu mantra? There were some things that could not be avoided. Finally, I guess it's over. Lin Feng leaned against the metal wall. His chest was heaving up and down, and his breathing was chaotic. This time, to him, it was no less than surviving a calamity. His body had become quite unfamiliar. Let alone raising his hand, he did not even have the strength to move his fingers. That was the power of heaven and earth, the true power of starry sky, the level of starry sky powerhouses. It was rare for heaven-ranked Xiantian treasures to contain the power of the world. Only the 3 heavenly treasures contained the power of the world. Moreover, the power of the world contained in the heavenly treasures and the power he had just endured, the difference was too great. It was like the difference between a stream and a lake. There should be an effect. Lin Feng revealed a bitter smile. He had no way of knowing the effect at the moment. He could not even move his body. How could there be an effect? However, it was useless to think too much. He had done what he should do. The only thing left was to resign himself to fate. Feeling a splitting pain in his head, Lin Feng felt as if his eyelids were fighting. Without any thought, his body relaxed, and he leaned against the metal wall and fainted. It was already his limit to hold on until now. A full 7 days and 7 nights. Only then did Lin Feng slowly wake up and regain consciousness. How long have I slept? Lin Feng smiled bitterly. He sat up straight with his hands on the ground. Although he did not know how long had passed, it was obvious that he had recovered his strength. The intense pain only made him lose consciousness temporarily. It did not cause any fundamental damage to his soul. As for his broken body, clenching his fists, Lin Feng's eyes glowed, revealing a hint of surprise. So powerful! Just by clenching his fists, he could feel a burst of explosive power. Whoosh! He swung his fists fiercely, bringing with it an aura that tore through space. Lin Feng widened his eyes as if he was suffocating. His speed and explosive power were much, much stronger than before. However, it seems like I'm missing something. Lin Feng's eyes widened slightly, and he suddenly smiled. In an instant, sizzle, an inexplicable power was activated. His right arm seemed to become crystal clear. A strong feeling of energy covered his entire body, crazily surging into his right arm. The flow of energy in his body was like a huge snake slithering around. It was abnormally terrifying. Bang! Bang! 2 consecutive punches, each more powerful than the last. Sonic booms sounded, and the entire cultivation room seemed to be shaking. Lin Feng's breathing quickened, but he was both surprised and happy. So powerful! Without the existence of various daos, just an ordinary punch was already so powerful. The power of heaven and earth. This is the power of heaven and earth. Lin Feng looked at his fists and muttered to himself in disbelief. Now, what was surging in his body was no longer the holy king-level astral source energy, but a stronger, denser, and more majestic power of heaven and earth. This was the transcendent power contained in the heavenly treasure, the power that dominated the heavenly treasure. It was comparable to the power of the starry sky. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Laughing heartily, Lin Feng was overjoyed. How could he not be excited, not excited? This was a power that completely belonged to him, a powerful new ability. Great saint? Which Emperor Jiang? When I get used to the power of heaven and earth and perfectly integrate it into my body, I won't be afraid of them. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He knew the change in strength best. The transformation from the astral source energy to the power of heaven and earth was almost on par with his breakthrough to the starry sky level. His strength had reached the level. The Holy King level astral source energy triggered the mysteries of the Ursa Major constellation. The power was indeed ordinary. But if the starry sky level power of heaven and earth triggered the mysteries of the Ursa Major constellation, how powerful would it be? Even if his understanding of the Tao was not as good as which Emperor Jiang or Great Saint, but as long as he could use the power of heaven and earth correctly, he would be stronger than them. Moreover, his understanding of the Tao was not as good as theirs now, but it did not mean that he could not catch up in the future. The body of the power of heaven and earth. The real physical body integrated into the starry sky world, integrated into the sea of Tao. The depth of my understanding of the Tao is more than 10 times or even 100 times better than before. Lin Feng raised his head, a faint smile on his face. Although he did not know what the future of cultivating the Panga technique would be, at least for now, he knew very well that this was a wise decision. As long as he had enough time to cultivate, he was confident that he could protect the southern region and all of humanity. He was even confident that he could become the immortal demon god in the future. Fight against him. Just wait. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Soon, he would bring a revolutionary change to the Douling world. Chapter 1584. In the blink of an eye, more than half a year had passed. In this half a year, fierce battles had occurred again and again, and the entire Douling world was in turmoil. The war of the witches and demons was fierce and varied. The witches were suppressed at first and then rose. Although they suffered a lot in the beginning, as the witch King Jiang exerted his strength and personally led the army, the demon clan was defeated like a landslide. They could not stop the witches at all. The attack was extremely fierce. The demon clan, who had already entered the hinterland of the inland, retreated step by step. In just half a year, their losses were so heavy that it made people tongue-tied. They were only left with the last fig leaf to tenaciously resist. This was the last line of defense. If they lost again, it meant that the demon clan would be beaten back to the sea. This was a boundary. Both the witches and the demon clan knew that once the demon clan was beaten back to the sea, the third war of the witches and demons would officially end. The demon clan would no longer be able to counterattack. This was not only a weakening of strength, but also a serious blow to their morale. The kingdom of Maru. Unlike the Dou spirit world that was engulfed in the flames of war, the nation of hunters was abnormally calm. There was no chaos at all. With the existence of the Holy Empire's ruler, Lin Feng, and the fact that it was located in a remote area of the tens of thousands of seas, the nation of hunters was like a paradise where everyone lived and worked in peace. Perhaps there was not enough spiritual energy here, and there was no perfect cultivation system, but so what? The existence of life was not only for fighting and cultivation. No matter how strong a warrior was, there would be a day when he would fall. The mystery of life was even more difficult for mortals to understand. Little Shou, come, let Godmother hug you. Feng don't bully your brother. In the house it was lively. Qin Qianqian, Ziyao, Huang Yan, and Yuma had warm smiles on their faces as they chatted and laughed from time to time. Feng who had already begun to babble, looked at her brother Shou with big watery eyes, her eyes filled with curiosity. In this half a year, the Lin family had another new life. Ziyao gave birth to Lin without a hitch. Lin Feng gave him the single name, Shou, because he and Ziyao had met in Shou, fell in love with each other, and formed a beautiful marriage. At this moment, Qianqian was hugging little Shou. Her face was full of motherly love and kindness. Her previous delicate appearance was long gone. Now Qianqian had matured a lot. Hey Qianqian, be careful. Lin Wanqing had just brought out a bowl of soup and was so scared that she quickly put it down. Lian took little Shou and glanced at Qin Qianqian's bulging belly with concern. She pretended to be serious and said, "You're going to be a mother soon. Don't you know how to be more careful?" "It's okay, Mom." Qin Qianqian smiled and pointed at Yuma, who was not far away. His eyes revealed a cunning look. "Look, Sister Yuma is already 8 months old. 2 days ago, she was still refining weapons in the refining room. Isn't she perfectly fine?" "What?" Lin Wanqing was so scared that her face turned green. She quickly turned her head. "You little girl." Lin Yuma laughed and scolded, "Don't listen to Qianqian's nonsense. Mom, I only went to the refining room to study the combination of metals." "That won't do." Lin Wanqing put on a serious face and said, "From today onwards, you're not allowed to go anywhere." Lin Yuma was shocked. He could only nod and agree helplessly. He looked at Qianqian. The latter was naughtily sticking out her tongue and winking at him. Lin Yuma didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The family was very close. They often played and joked with each other. "Mom." Lin Feng walked over with a smile. "Yuma's strength is close to becoming a saint. He'll be fine even if he goes through a battle." Pregnancy was unstable for ordinary people. For Yuma, who was close to becoming a saint, it was too easy for him to divide part of his star source power to protect the baby. Even when she was pregnant, she had fed Yuma some spirit fruits of heaven and earth. Not to mention Yuma's body, even the baby was very strong now. "That won't do." Lin Wanqing shook her head and said seriously, "Some things are better safe than sorry. If you can avoid it, it's best not to let it happen. When the time comes, good luck." "I understand, Mom." Lin Yuma smiled. She knew that Lin Wanqing was doing it for her own good. That was why she tried her best to persuade her. In fact, she was also very careful. Other than entering the refining room for a short while because she couldn't bear the loneliness, she didn't touch refining. She only studied the combination of metals and the combination of materials. Lin Feng looked at Lin Yuma and nodded with a smile. Yuma was smart and considerate. This wife of his who was betrothed to him before she was born didn't have a sense of superiority. Instead, she integrated well with the family. Even the most arrogant Huang Yan slowly integrated into the family with the birth of Feng. Now, his family could be called complete. His father Lin Xiaotian and mother Jiayazhu were in charge of the overall situation in the southern region, while his daughters lived in seclusion in the kingdom of Maru and lived a peaceful life. His younger brother Lin Yun was still the king, while his younger sister Shui went to the southern region to take up an important position in the Lin clan. As for his 4 wives, they were also used to the peaceful life in the kingdom of Maru, taking care of their husbands and children. Although it was difficult for the strong to reproduce, it was only relatively speaking. According to Duo, countless strong men in the starry sky had many children. He was just a probationary starry sky ability user. What was the big deal? The starry sky world was full of strange treasures and all kinds of star fruits. The last time he harvested on Demon Emperor Island, there were several kinds of star fruits that had similar effects. Although they were not as good as the treasures in the starry sky world, they were enough for him to reproduce smoothly. In just half a year, Qianqian and Yuma were pregnant smoothly, and he and Huang Yan were busy trying to create a second child. After all, the strong men in the starry sky were a threshold. Once he broke through, it would be 100 times more difficult to reproduce the next generation. It was complete. It could be said that he had achieved all his wishes. However, he still had to do what he had to do. The path of a martial artist was endless, and the word comfortable did not exist in the heart of a martial artist. This half a year of hard work was very important to him. The Douling world is very messy. It's almost time for me to come out. Otherwise, I'm afraid the wizard tribe will think that we are easy to bully. Wizard Emperor Jiang Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Based on what he knew, Wizard Emperor Dijiang's strength had improved a lot in the past half a year, and he even won the one-on-one battle with the Grey Great Sage not long ago, which boosted the morale of the wizard tribe and severely damaged the demon army. However, he believed that his improvement in the past half a year of hard work was at least 10 times better. With the Pengu technique in hand and the power of heaven and earth in my body. This is my trump card now. Lin Feng clenched his fist, and his eyes shone with confidence. He was no longer the same as before. Chapter 1585. Sorcerer Tribe's Territory. What? Ah? Are you joking? The group of sorcerer kings widened their eyes in shock. They discussed fervently among themselves, but they were baffled by Sorcerer Emperor Jiang's words. Reporting to Sorcerer Emperor, this subordinate does not understand. Gonggong cupped his fists, frowning deeply. This subordinate also doesn't understand. Since our sorcerer tribe has the advantage, why didn't we take this opportunity to annihilate the demonic beast race? Instead, why did we turn back and attack the southern region? Sorcerer King Tianwu waved his 3 arms in the air, his eyes glinting. Why should we be afraid of mere humans? There is no need to pay attention to them. Please enlighten us, Sorcerer Emperor. The group of sorcerer kings urged in unison. Indeed, the war between the sorcerer tribe and the demonic beast race had reached the most critical moment. The demonic beast race was defending the last checkpoint, resisting stubbornly. As long as the sorcerer tribe worked harder, they would be able to drive the demonic beast race out of the inner region, and peace would return. The demonic beast race had suffered heavy losses. If they wanted to counterattack, their morale would plummet, and their vitality would be greatly damaged. The chances of success were slim. Most likely, the demonic beast race would rest and wait for the next opportunity. The Third Great War between the sorcerer tribe and the demonic beast race would most likely end with the sorcerer tribe's victory. At that time, whether the sorcerer tribe would advance or retreat would be within their control. But Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was not going to attack at such a good opportunity? Humph! A heavy snort sounded like chaos energy, causing the group of sorcerer kings' hearts to quiver. Just this snort contained a natural domineering aura and a strong pressure. None of the sorcerer kings were weak, thus they could feel Sorcerer Emperor Jiang's improvement in strength. Sky Arc Control, 3rd Stage. Stupid! All of you are short-sighted. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang's cold gaze swept over the group of sorcerer kings. Only Hutu, Xianming, Shi Jiuyin, and Shi Baishi remained calm, standing at the side. Among them, Hutu and Xianming were his sworn brothers, and they were his true descendants. Shi Jiuyin was the next witch sovereign's successor, and they were of the same lineage. As for Shi Baishi, he had a good relationship with Shi Jiuyin, and he was Shi Jiuyin's leader. Sigh. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang sighed inwardly, helpless. Although Shi Jiuyin was not the best candidate to succeed the witch sovereign position in Huang Xiaolong's mind, compared to other witch kings, Shi Jiuyin was more qualified. Arrogant, treacherous, and unscrupulous. However, he was a little too arrogant and easily angered. Shi Jiuyin was worthy of being called a treacherous hero, but he wasn't worthy of being called a ruthless hero. If he could let go, he couldn't let go. If the full marks were 100 points, then Shi Jiuyin would only get 60 points at most. Unfortunately, the other shaman kings couldn't even score 50 points. They could only pick the tallest out of the shortest. You tell them, 9 shades. Which Emperor Jiang waved his hand, his face cold. Yes, Shaman Emperor. Shi Juin nodded. The corners of his lips curled up slightly as his gaze swept over the group of shaman kings. His hoarse and unpleasant voice rang in the hall, "A centipede dies but never falls down. Fellow shaman kings, don't forget the demonic beast race's treacherous nature. Every time our shaman race's army is about to inflict heavy losses on the demonic beast race, the demonic beast race always has a trump card up their sleeves to counterattack." A commotion broke out in the hall as the shaman kings discussed among themselves. There was indeed such a thing. But I've heard that human Lam Tok Ti has been removed from his position by the demonic beast race. The demonic beast race no longer has a military advisor. The 4 great beast emperors are only brave but not astute. That's right, I've heard that the battle at the fallen Shaman mountain range was one of Lam Tok Ti's schemes. A sharp light glimmered in Shi Juin's eyes as he asked coldly, "Then, do you know where Lam Tok Ti is now? Where is he?" The shaman kings were stunned, whispering to each other. For a moment they were baffled. How would they know? Shi Juin's gaze swept over the shaman kings and he sneered coldly, "There's no harm in telling you. Lam Tok Ti has been absorbed by Ji Hua." A commotion broke out in the hall. It can't be right? The heavenly spirits Ji? The strongest intelligence agency? How did Lam Tok Ti enter Ji? He's just a human. The shaman kings were astounded, unable to comprehend the news. This news was simply too shocking. Human? Shi Juin was indifferent. Since when has the demonic beast army appointed a human as their military advisor? There are always exceptions to everything. Lam Tok Ti has his own unique ability to establish himself in the demonic beast army's G. According to the shaman sovereign's estimation, the reason why Lam Tok Ti could enter G so smoothly is most likely because... Shi Juin's voice trailed off, the entire hall was silent. All the shaman kings held their breath. Lam Tok Ti has been colluding with Ji since the demonic beast army's appointment. Hearing Shi Juin's words, the shaman kings sucked in a deep breath. Too shocking. After a short meeting, the shaman tribe's grand plan was decided. In fact, in the current shaman tribe, Shaman Emperor Jiang was fully deserving of the title of the decision-maker. Basically, whatever he decided was an imperial edict. Who dared to go against it? The reason he had Shi Juin explain was to use this opportunity to set the tone for the shaman tribe's future. He would be leaving soon, breaking through the void and leaving. If he hadn't resisted the urge to break through, he would have entered the world of stars by now, enjoying the boundless sea and sky. However, he couldn't let go of the shaman tribe, couldn't let go of the millions of people. To Shaman Emperor Jiang, this was his duty, something he had to do. Shaman Sovereign, the southern region. No, is that Lin Feng really so dangerous? Shi Juin asked. Yes. Di Zhang's voice was firm and firm, without any hesitation. But he's just a small human. Shi Juin was still in disbelief. No matter how strong he is, his strength is on par with the demonic beast army's great Saint Realm experts, so what? With his own strength, the southern region he leads is not enough to fight with our shaman tribe. You're wrong. Di Zhang's gaze focused on Shi Juin, saying indifferently, I have never cared about the southern region, even Lin Feng is nothing to me. Then, Shi Juin frowned, puzzled. What I want is his fate. Shaman Emperor Jiang's eyes shone brightly, his gaze swept over the 12 grand shamans, and he said solemnly, as long as the Emperor constellation doesn't fall, it will be able to unify the battle spirit world after surviving the calamity. Previously there were 2 Emperor constellations, so there was no need to care about them, let them fight, but now there is only 1 Emperor constellation left. If this child is not eliminated, he will become a great threat to us. Shi Juin nodded. He knew what Shaman Emperor Di Jiang had done. In order to strengthen the shaman tribe's fortune and strengthen himself, he had sacrificed the human race's 9 holy sovereigns, not caring about the feelings of the human alliance. Including the ancient race's 3 divine envoys, Shaman Emperor Di Jiang had always been unscrupulous to achieve his goals. The human race? Even the ancient races were merely his chess pieces. Even if the ancient southern region was destroyed, Di Jiang wouldn't care. Chess pieces were just chess pieces, nothing else. As long as the shaman tribe could win, defeat the demonic beast army, and unify the battle spirit world, so what if all his chess pieces died? This, in itself, was a profound game of chess. In war, there were bound to be sacrifices. The fate of an emperor. Shi Jiuyan's eyes shone brightly. As long as we refine him into a living corpse and integrate him into our shaman tribe's bloodline. Shaman Emperor Di Jiang's eyes shone with ambition. At that time, the heavenly fortune will fall on our shaman tribe. The more powerful he is, the more powerful our shaman tribe's heavenly fortune will be. Demonic Beast Army? What is the Demonic Beast Army? Even that sneaky G will become a stepping stone for the shaman tribe to unify the battle spirit world. Thousands of years later, our shaman tribe will truly dominate the battle spirit world. Definitely. Southern region. How's the situation now, father? Lin Feng asked. Not good. Lin Xiaotian uttered 2 words, then exhaled deeply and shook his head. There was a trace of sorrow between his brows, and his face was slightly pale. It was obvious that he had not had a good sleep for a long time. After all, he was different from Shun, King Yen, and other experts. His cultivation was crippled, and even with the help of many elixirs, Lin Xiaotian had just stepped into the Star River realm. His strength was still not strong enough. In the past half a year, the 8 Great Regions Alliance has been harassing and probing the southern region with the shaman tribe's support. Shun's eyes shone brightly as he said seriously, even though the God creation plan has been kept a secret, there is no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. The shaman tribe must have received some news, which is why they feel so uncomfortable. Lin Feng nodded. He knew that the God creation plan could not be kept a secret for long. In the beginning, the number of people involved in the God creation plan was SOSO, but as the plan was carried out, more and more people were involved. It was only a matter of time before they were exposed. After all, every cultivator who participated in the God of War plan had a family, parents, wives, children, and so on. Even if they did not leak the information, it did not mean that their relatives would not. The southern region was so big, it was normal for spies to infiltrate. What was meant to come would eventually come. However, Shun paused for a moment and revealed an indifferent smile. Even if we know, I believe that the shaman tribe will not attack us for a short period of time. Now that the demon tribe is guarding the last checkpoint, no matter how you look at it, the shaman tribe will do their best to push the demon tribe back to the sea. We will definitely be safe during this period of time. It won't take long. Lin Xiaotian shook his head and said, the strength of the demon tribe has been completely suppressed. Once the demon tribe retreats, I believe that the next target of the shaman tribe will be us. To resist foreign aggression, one had to settle the internal affairs first. The inland region was the headquarters of the shaman tribe. He would never allow a second force to exist in the territory. I only hope that the demon tribe can stall for a little longer. Shun frowned and sighed softly. To be honest, he had never thought that the demon tribe would be defeated by the shaman tribe in such a short period of time. This was a little too unbelievable, but the truth was right in front of him, and he could not doubt it. In a few months, or even a month, or a year and a half, the demon tribe would definitely be pushed back to the sea by the shaman tribe. At that time, humans would be in big trouble. Frowning deeply, Lin Xiaotian and Shun felt a little uneasy. On the other hand, Lin Feng's expression was calm and composed. Perhaps half a year ago, he would be afraid of the shaman tribe and the shaman Emperor Jiang, but now he did not care. There was even a trace of desire in his heart. He wanted to see the Shaman Emperor Jiang as soon as possible, fight with him. He wanted to test his current strength and see what level he had reached. Could he be a match for the Shaman Emperor Jiang? At this moment, beep beep beep, a hurried sound sounded almost at the same time. Shun and Lin Xiaotian were slightly stunned. Their eyes fell on the communication device. In an instant, their expressions changed drastically, and their breathing quickened. Their eyes widened in shock as if they had seen the end of the world. Chapter 1586. So. In the paradise, figures appeared one after another, their faces filled with shock. King Yen, King Lu, Shui Mu, these first batch of God Creation Project experts who broke through to the Saint King level arrived first. Wu Tsong, Pang Mintian, these second batch experts who broke through to the Saint King level arrived later. In fact, as time passed, the second batch of God Creation Project experts who broke through to the Saint King level far exceeded the first batch. Even whoosh whoosh, the third and fourth batch of God Creation Project experts also arrived. The number of Saint King level experts far exceeded the first batch. The humans of the southern region were now very, very strong. These carefully cultivated Saint King level experts not only had powerful equipment, they also had the fusion of countless astral treasures chi. Every Saint King level expert was a small team of Saint level expert. With just these warriors, plus Lin Feng, it was not a problem to wipe out an entire ancient region. Good preparation. Humans, in the entire Douling world, had the largest population, second only to the demon race. The Star River and Star Sea level experts' foundation was too deep. As long as there were enough resources to cultivate, human experts would spring up like bamboo shoots after a rain in a short period of time. Now, the number of Saint King level experts cultivated through the God Creation Project had already exceeded 100. As for Saint level experts, they were even more numerous. Pa! Two figures appeared, one male and one female. They were Jin Ji and Shi Jixin. They had shed their immaturity and experienced countless trials. The two were no longer the ignorant people of the past, especially Jin Ji's change. The Scorpio constellation mark on his forehead was deeply engraved into his bones, just like his eyes, firm and resolute, full of confidence. However, their friendship did not change at all. Lin Feng. Jin Ji smiled, the coldness on his face instantly turning into passion. Lin De Gu, Shi Jixin also smiled sweetly. They had not met for a long time. The current Shi Jixin was already slender and elegant, even compared to Thousand Love Emperor beside her, she was not much inferior. Thousand Love Emperor followed Shi Jixin. Her perfect face was flawless, beautiful like jade, and her pair of bright eyes revealed a look of wisdom. Obviously, the three of them had been together all along. Long time no see. Lin Feng smiled at the three of them. Compared to the solemn expressions of the other cultivators, the expressions of the three cultivators were much calmer. He had been through many difficulties in the Magus realm. War? What was there to be afraid of? This was especially true for Qian Lian Huang, whose heart was as calm as still water. She was extremely intelligent. Most of the time, Lin Feng would consult Thousand Love Emperor about the development of the southern region. She was truly a rare genius of the human race. We were just sparring with Sister Qian when we received your message. We immediately rushed over. Shi Jixin smiled. The shaman race really came? Thousand Love Emperor's beautiful eyes flickered as she asked. Lin Feng nodded his head. Which Emperor Jiang is personally leading the army. This time, the Witch clan is prepared to take action for real. A hint of fighting spirit flashed across his eyes. Lin Feng pursed his lips lightly. It was difficult for two fists to fight against four hands. This time, the Witch tribe's army had moved out, forcing the southern region to reveal all their trump cards. He could fight against Shaman Emperor Jiang, but what about Shaman Kings? What about the other sage kings of the sorcerer race? Although the sorcerer race might not mobilize their entire race, the sorcerer race's foundation and strength were definitely not something the southern region could compare to. Especially in the number of sage kings, the sorcerer race had completely suppressed the southern region. Although King Yen, Shui Mu, and the others were strong, they could only match up to ordinary sage kings. The true experts of the human race, other than himself, they were Qian Lian Huang, Jin Ji, Shi Jixin, and the other rising stars of the 12 royal constellations. Of course, there was also, I won. It was obviously me who won. Nonsense, you obviously can't block my spiritual Zen bell. TSK, I still have a trump card that I haven't used yet. In the midst of the quarrel, 2 more people arrived. Their bodies were still emitting a strong fighting spirit, and their stellar source energy could not be stopped. Ordinary sage kings were all shocked. One of them was like a barbaric war god, and a deep scar could be faintly seen on his bare arm, extending all the way to his back. The other wore a blue shirt and pants, and his entire body seemed to be made of steel, like an unsheathed sword. Wan Macho, Little Jian. After coming out of the Thousand Snake Cave, Little Jian's strength had increased tremendously, and could be compared to Wan Macho, who had fused with the spiritual Zen bell. The two of them were extremely battle-hungry, and they had become friends after fighting, and appreciated each other. After these few days of sparring, not only had they become close friends, their strength had also increased tremendously. Lin Feng. With a smile like a spring breeze, he called out softly. It was a young man in white, and beside him stood a cold woman who was otherworldly, as if they were an immortal couple. You're here. Lin Feng smiled. The newcomers were Fong Ning and Shui Yumei from the Water Curtain Cave. After the death of the heavenly secret Saint Lord, Fong Ning had taken over the Water Curtain Cave. It had to be said that the heavenly secret Saint Lord had great foresight, and had long prepared for this day. The Water Curtain Cave had a strong foundation, and just the number of Sage Kings alone was more than 10, and the number of Sage Kings was even more than 1,000. It was enough to be considered a powerful force. Especially Fong Ning, who had inherited the legacy of the heavenly secret Saint Lord, and was compatible with the rare treasure 100 waterfalls. His strength was unfathomable. Others might not understand, but Lin Feng knew very well how powerful the rare treasure 100 waterfalls was. Coupled with Fong Ning's cultivation in the water origin lineage, it was like adding wings to a tiger. His strength was comparable to his past self, and he was almost at the level of a demon emperor. In comparison, although Shui Yumei was the eldest senior sister, her strength was far inferior to Fong Ning, and so was Shui Linglong. The further one cultivated, the more important one's talent was, and opportunities. Yes, I received your message not long after I returned to the kingdom of Maru, Fong Ning smiled. After cultivating, Fong Ning no longer had to stay in the Water Curtain Cave. With his strength, where could he not go? The kingdom of Maru was not only the place where Lin Feng grew up, but Fong Ning and Xiao Jian were also born and raised in the kingdom of Maru. Naturally, they had a special fondness for their hometown. Lin Feng glanced at Xiao Jian, then looked at Fong Ning and smiled faintly. I didn't expect us 3 brothers to be able to fight together again. Yes. Fong Ning smiled faintly. But just like back then, you are still the strongest among the 3 of us. I am still the weakest. Xiao Jian shrugged helplessly. Lin Feng and Fong Ning smiled. I just had better opportunities than the 2 of you. Lin Feng smiled faintly. The path of cultivation is long, and this is just the beginning. As he spoke softly, his gaze swept across the crowd. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In the blink of an eye, almost all the experts of the southern region had arrived. Even those who were cultivating or in seclusion were forcibly summoned. Even though this day had unexpectedly come early, but it was all within the plan. Chapter 1587. There was no need for a blood-boiling speech, nor was there a need for a soul-stirring shout. This was because every single cultivator standing here was well aware of the meaning of their existence and where their obligations lay. They would do their best. To protect the southern region, they would do their best. Even if they died, they would have no regret. There was no need to mobilize them. All the warriors had already followed Lin Feng's lead. More than 99% of the warriors here were elites nurtured by the God-making plan. They were very young and had excellent aptitude. Maybe they lacked experience, but they were hot-blooded and impulsive. They didn't have any servility. They didn't fear the witches. They had a firm belief in their hearts. For the humans, for Emperor Lin. They had the strength they had today because Lin Feng had spared no effort in nurturing them. Because they were young, they dared to fight and didn't fear death. So what if they were witches? Anyone who invaded the southern region was an enemy. Either you die or I die. Kill. Damn it, let's fight with these witches. Kill one to break even, kill two to make a profit. Kill these witches back to their original level. What's there to be afraid of? They have more people. We have Emperor Lin's astral treasure ho. It's hard to say who has the advantage in numbers. Peak saint-level divine beasts and vicious beasts appear one after another. I want to see the witches' shocked faces. Their fighting spirit boiled. Facing the survival of the human race, these human elites didn't have the slightest fear of retreating. As Lin Feng sped ahead, he heard the idle chatter. He could not help but reveal a knowing smile. Ignoring their strength, at least his God-making plan was a success. Now, not only did the warriors of the southern region have a fighting spirit, but they were also quite united. Unity was very important. Unfortunately, more than half of my Death God army hasn't awakened. Lin Feng thought. Only a small portion of the Death God army that was absorbed by the Shield of Truth had awakened. They weren't too strong, so there was no need to take them out now. That would do more harm than good. According to the intelligence, although the witches paid attention to the battle in the southern region and needed to use all their strength, but he didn't really go all out. There are also the cannon fodder of the 8 Great Territories Alliance. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Other than Shaman Emperor Jiang, there are only 3 Shaman Kings, Shi Jiuyin, Tian Wu, and Gomang, and close to 300 Saint King level experts. That doesn't include those that haven't been detected. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. Such combat strength was already frightening enough on the battlefield, especially with the existence of Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, who could fight against 10,000 people by himself. The title of the strongest person in the Douling world was no joke. Even so, the southern region was not afraid of them. I will face Shaman Emperor Jiang, and Fang Ning will face Shi Jiuyin. Wan Macho and Little Sword should be able to restrain one Shaman King. Jin Ji, Shi Jixin and Qian Lianhuang should be able to restrain one as well. The only problem is, Lin Feng frowned. The number of Saint Kings on the other side far exceeded their own. Even with the addition of the Saint King level powerhouses from the Water Curtain Cave, there were only about 140 of them. The Sorcerer tribe was known to have more than 290 Saint King level powerhouses, twice as many as their own side. More importantly, the average strength of the enemy's Saint King level powerhouses was much higher than their own side. We can only rely on quantity to supplement quality. Lin Feng nodded inwardly. He already had a plan in mind. The number of astral treasure chi on their side was a huge advantage. Although they were only Saint Realm ferocious beasts and divine beasts, many of them were peak Saint Realm ferocious beasts, especially peak Saint Realm ferocious beasts. Their strength was comparable to low-level Saint King Realm. Using quantity to supplement quality, in addition to these peak Saint Realm ferocious beasts' immortal bodies, they should be able to hold on for a while. But the most important thing was still himself. He absolutely could not lose. Once he lost to Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, this battle would be a foregone conclusion. As the human emperor, as the ruler of the southern region, to protect the southern region. He could not afford to lose this battle. He had to win. Lin Feng clenched his fists, determination shining in his eyes. But it wasn't like his side had no advantages. In war, know yourself and know your enemy, and you won 100 battles. The sorcerer tribe would never have imagined that the southern region's battle strength had reached such a level. Otherwise, there was no reason for Sorcerer Emperor Jiang to send these experts to annihilate the southern region. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, I'm afraid, the southern region will give you a big surprise. Whether it's our southern region's overall battle strength or my strength. Lin Feng's eyes were cold, full of confidence. Compared to the humans who were fighting with their lives on the line, the sorcerer tribe was calm. In fact, they had underestimated the enemy. Using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. You actually need me to go out to slaughter a mere human territory. Sorcerer King Tianwu waved his 3 hands in the air, disdain written all over his face. Just to be safe. Zhu Mang smiled indifferently. This proves that the Sorcerer Emperor is determined to win this battle. Don't complain anymore. Didn't you see Shi Juyin, the Sorcerer Emperor's successor, coming out to fight? Even Sorcerer Emperor Jiang himself is here to hold the line. This shows how much importance he places on the southern region. That's why I'm puzzled. Sorcerer King Tianwu shook his head, speechless. So what if Ji is sitting on the mountain and watching the tigers fight? Are we going to let the demonic beast race off the hook? At worst, we'll fight together with Ji. I don't believe the heavenly spirit tribe dares to fight us head-on. What's there to be afraid of? Alright, that's enough. Zhu Mang frowned slightly. It won't be good if Sorcerer Emperor hears you. Sorcerer King Tianwu harumphed coldly, but his heart was filled with apprehension. No matter what, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang's order was an imperial edict. Haha, I can finally relax. It's been a long time since I've tasted the thrill of trampling. Conquering the humans, TSK, it must feel good. Don't be careless, this is probably just a warm-up. After dealing with the southern region, the demonic beast race's base camp will be next. That is where the real battle will be. Yes, the demonic beast race will definitely go all out in the next battle. It'll be even more difficult. Sorcerer King Tianwu wasn't the only one who underestimated the enemy. These ordinary sorcerer tribe experts were also disdainful of the humans. Even though Lin Feng had repelled the 8 Territories Alliance and fought against the demonic beast race, this time was different. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was personally holding the fort, followed by 3 sorcerer kings, and close to 300 Sage King-level sorcerer tribe experts. This lineup was comparable to the battle against the demonic beast race. Humans? None of the sorcerer tribe experts believed that a mere southern region could withstand such a lineup of attack. In fact, even Sorcerer Emperor Di Jiang did not expect this. He, who had always been cautious, was also very cautious this time. Originally, half of the southern region's army was enough to flatten it, but Sorcerer Emperor Di Jiang still prepared enough experts just in case. However, he probably could not have imagined. The strength of the southern region was far beyond his expectations. The war was about to break out. Chapter 1588. They waited patiently. With Lin Feng in the lead, all the experts of the southern region were present. Lin Feng looked serious. He did not dare to be careless. The reason why he could stop the demon race's army last time was not because of his true strength. It was because of the heavenly treasure, the Shield of Truth. However, the Shield of Truth had not recovered from its injuries. It could not use its absolute defense. The entire southern region was like a defenseless fortress. They could only rely on their purest strength. Unlike the sorcerer race and the demon race, the southern region could not afford to lose. If they lost, it would be a disaster for the southern region. Phew, Lin Feng sat cross-legged at the front. He looked calm. Faint, invisible power of the heavens and the earth filled his body. his body's strength had reached a level that no one knew. In the past half a year, Lin Feng had not fought with any other expert. In the human world, no one in the southern region could fight with him. Even so, Lin Feng still had a clear understanding of his own strength. If the first time he merged with the power of the heavens and the earth, his fighting strength was 1. Now, his fighting strength was 100. Absolute confidence. It's a pity that my main body is at a critical moment. If my main body could participate in the battle, the southern region's strength would increase by another level. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He was moved. His main body was also very strong. Especially after activating the Pangu Eye, he was definitely the strongest heavenly soul master in the Douling world. Even in the entire heavenly spirit world, no one could compare with his main body in terms of attainments as a heavenly soul master. When the power of the Pangu Eye was fully activated, it was enough to kill a sorcerer king. However, now, if I have no choice, I can only summon my main body, Lin Feng thought to himself. After all, the safety of the humans and the southern region was the most important. However, he believed that with his main body's current strength, it should be enough. The third stage of the heavenly arc, Lin Feng thought to himself. He defeated the Grey Great Sage. Even the Grey Great Sage with the ability of immortality was defeated by Sorcerer Emperor Di Jiang. He wanted to know how powerful Sorcerer Emperor Di Jiang was now. He was only at the first stage of the Shield of Truth. However, Sorcerer Emperor Di Jiang had cultivated the heavenly arc to the last stage. In this aspect, there was a huge gap. That's right. After all, the 3 heavenly treasures were transformed from the 12 grand shamans. It's normal for which Emperor Jiang to have an advantage in this aspect, just like how the great sage was devoured by the earth pillar. Lin Feng said softly. The heavenly treasure was also in existence with spirituality. It was obvious that it was the most friendly to the Magi. It was indifferent to him, but it was obvious that it was hostile to the demons. This kind of relationship was actually equivalent to the degree of compatibility. The better the degree of compatibility, the better the coordination, and the stronger the comprehension and cultivation. However, the Shield of Truth wasn't of much use to him for the time being. After all, it was his main body that was compatible with the Shield of Truth, not his doppelganger. Even if his main body was equipped with the Shield of Truth, he was still far from being a match for his doppelganger. Pangu Mantra, Divine Body. My first opponent will be the Shaman Emperor Jiang. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. His eyes slowly opened, sparkling with fighting spirit. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. He waited for 3 days and 3 nights. The Magi were clearly not in a hurry. They did not hide their tracks and came slowly, as if they were not afraid that the humans of the southern region would escape. The more anxious they were, the more chaotic it would be. The Shaman Emperor Jiang knew the way of war. Rushing would affect the combat state of the Magi warriors. Moving slowly like now, not only could they maintain their combat state, but they could also bring invisible pressure to the enemy. Escape, fear, and hesitation would all weaken the enemy's strength. Even the rumors in the southern region city were quite powerful. War wasn't just a contest of strength. Shaman Emperor Di Jiang was an experienced schemer who understood this very well. However, he had miscalculated this time. Shaman Emperor, the continents of the southern region are as stable as rocks. Rumors can't affect them at all. Gomang frowned and said, according to our investigations, the people of the southern region have almost blind faith in Emperor Lin. In their hearts, as long as Lin Feng is still alive, the southern region will not fall. In fact, after hesitating for a moment, Gomang's expression changed slightly. He wanted to say something but stopped. Di Jiang's eyes shone with a cold light. Gomang took a deep breath and said calmly, all the sky screens in the 9 continents and counties are broadcasting the battle situation. Lin Feng is personally leading the experts of the southern region and waiting in the outer region. From their expressions, there is no fear or intention to retreat. I'm afraid that although the Magi can win this battle, we will suffer a lot of losses. In Gomong's opinion, such an opponent was the most troublesome. The army and people were united and did not hesitate to sacrifice themselves. Even if their strength was far inferior to the Magi, they would definitely cause considerable damage to the Magi. It was not wise for an ant to shake a tree, but once there were endless ants, even if they could not shake the tree, they would still cause damage to the tree. Not to mention, the shaman tribe's army was 10 times the number of human martial artists, and there was also the alliance of the human race's 8 territories and other cannon fodder. This was definitely an unfair battle. But that was how war was. The winner was king and the loser was in the wrong. What mattered was the final outcome. Kill! Lin Feng shouted angrily. Without waiting for the shaman tribe army to fall into formation, he had already charged forward like an arrow leaving the bow. He had taken the initiative to fight, and he had the courage to fight. Time after time, Lin Feng knew very well what he had to do as the commander: take the lead. If they were to defend passively, they would indeed have a certain advantage, but they would not be able to withstand the enemy's numbers. Furthermore, the powerhouses of the sorcerer tribe might attack the human warriors' army, but the bastards of the 8 territory alliance might not. The cowardly sorcerer tribe would probably pass through the human warriors' army and go deep into the southern region to kill the civilians. He was not willing to take this risk. But if he took the initiative to attack, he could throw all these worries to the back of his mind. Let the enemy defend. Kill! Kill these sons of cheese! The martial artists of the southern region instantly exploded with an overwhelming power, following closely behind Lin Feng. Fang Ning, Xiao Jian, Shi Jixin, Jin Ji and the other experts were in the second line of defense, and they instantly spread out. They were very clear about their identities and their opponent. Lin Feng headed straight for the Shaman King, which meant that they were attacking the Shaman King. Boom! 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 Behind Lin Feng, divine beasts and ferocious beasts suddenly appeared, covering the sky and covering the earth. Most of them were at the peak of the martial sage level. The qi that Lin Feng gave everyone was basically the highest grade that could be made. In an instant, there were more than 1,000 beasts. The southern region's formation, which was originally thin, instantly became quite full and thick. When the army in front of the Magi saw the formation of ferocious beasts that covered the sky and earth, their eyes immediately widened. However, they did not have any time to hesitate, because Lin Feng had arrived. Spear. A doomsday spear. Sizzle. Sizzle. The doomsday spear flashed with a chilling light, carrying with it a terrifying aura. With just a sweep of the spear, it was as if it was splitting the sky and earth. It broke a huge hole in the middle of the demon tribe army. None of the shaman tribe experts who were affected by the spear aura were spared. Even the martial sages could not withstand the power of the spear. Lin Feng was like the master of the ferocious beasts, like a sharp arrow piercing through the shaman tribe army. He was invincible. Swoosh! His speed did not slow down at all. To the current Lin Feng, extreme speed was as easy as drinking water. It was as effortless as blowing off dust. The doomsday spear danced and entered the shaman tribe army, killing ferociously. No one was a match for him, and the smell of blood in front of him was thick. In an instant, Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he was overjoyed. Before meeting the Shaman King Jiang, he met a Shaman King Tianwu. Good! Lin Feng's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Chapter 1589. The situation couldn't be better. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows, and his eyes shone with a cold light. The original plan was for him to face which Emperor Jiang, while Fong Ning faced Shi Jiuyin. This was an evenly matched battle. As for the remaining two Witch Kings, Wan Macho and Xiao Jian would restrain one, and Jin Ji, Shi Jixin, and Qian Lian Huang would restrain the other. Unlike Fong Ning, the other two teams would only restrain each other, and the chances of winning were not high. In addition to the difference in strength between ordinary Saint Kings, it could be said that the southern region was at a disadvantage in terms of top-notch experts. But now, this was undoubtedly a great opportunity. Witch Emperor Jiang was too arrogant. Reputation was sometimes a burden, just like Witch Emperor Jiang, the Witch Emperor, the strongest expert in the Douling world. His reputation was like thunder. This kind of powerful existence would not take the initiative to attack unless it was absolutely necessary. Otherwise, it would be too degrading. To deal with a mere human territory, with 3 Magus Kings as commanders and nearly 300 Saint King-level powerful beings, this was a huge gap. He was a Magus Emperor. Did he need to attack? Even against the demonic beasts, which Emperor Jiang rarely attacked. A true transcendent existence would either not attack, or the moment he attacked, he would determine the victory and turn the situation around. Which Emperor Jiang had this confidence, but he was also very careful. Although he did not attack, his aura was firmly locked on Witch King Tianwu, covering the entire demonic beast army. As a commander, the most important thing was to coordinate the overall situation, overlooking the entire chessboard, and not to take the lead. Moreover, if Witch King Tianwu was in danger, he could rush over immediately. What was there to fear? Roar. A thunderous roar reverberated in the air. With a tiger body and 10 tails, Witch King Tianwu's strength had reached the peak of the witch tribe. His 3 ferocious heads and 3 arms waved in the air, and the wind whistled, causing the entire space to tremble. With the innate talent wind control, Shaman King Tianwu's abilities were relatively strong on the battlefield. His offensive capabilities were especially astonishing. Compared to Shaman King Chang Liang and Shaman King Yanzi, who both specialized in attacking, his innate talent was more suited for the battlefield. Looking at the puny human charging towards him, Witch King Tianwu's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. Human? During the First Great Magi Demon War and the Second Great Magi Demon War, they were merely slaves and vassals of the Magi Demon race. As a Magus King, dealing with a mere human being was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. However, even a lion needed to use all its strength to hunt a rabbit, and Shaman King Tianwu would naturally not hold back. Moreover, a trace of coldness inexplicably surfaced in his heart when he sensed the spear in front of him. Fear? How could this be? Die, human! Shaman King Tianwu glared angrily. Fierce winds blew as his 3 arms danced crazily. 3 streaks of light instantly revolved around him, forming a spiral airflow. The power of wind was concentrated in the center of the vortex, tearing through space as it blasted toward Lin Feng. An extremely majestic pressure. Shaman King Tianwu was like a ferocious tiger descending the mountain. He was unstoppable. His enormous body carried a bloodthirsty aura that instantly made the entire human army pale in comparison. Southern region, 9 great continents. Monsters too scary. Tianwu Shaman Clan, this must be the Shaman King of the Tianwu Shaman Clan. Can Emperor Lin really stop such a terrifying sorcerer? Can the southern region really survive this calamity? Unlike the demon race, the sorcerer's strength was already deeply ingrained in the hearts of the people. Most martial artists had been implanted with this concept since they were young, and it was deeply ingrained in them. Even if they had deep faith in Lin Feng, when they saw the might of the sorcerer army and the terror of Shaman King Tianwu, the hearts of the people of the southern region trembled. In the sky, Lin Feng was as small as an ant in front of Shaman King Tianwu. Just their physique alone was far too different. But in the next instant, the eyes of all the people of the southern region widened. Chi! Chi! The indigo-colored spear instantly erupted with a terrifying aura, and came into contact with Shaman King Tianwu's spiral airflow. It was like a needle against an awl. In an instant, it broke through the spiral airflow and pushed forward like a sharp awl. Its speed did not change at all. Crack! It was a small spear, but it had a terrifying power that could shake the world. Shaman King Tianwu's face was hideous as he roared furiously. All three of his arms were formed, and the green light was accompanied by the howling of the wind. It was like streams of chaotic airflow from countless spatial layers. However, it could not stop the small indigo-colored light at all. It broke through. Lin Feng's spear was just like his expression at this moment. It was courageous and full of momentum. Die, Shaman King Tianwu. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with killing intent. He would not miss such a good opportunity. Killing Shaman King Tianwu would definitely cause great damage to the sorcerer army. Not only would their morale be greatly damaged, but it would also change their peak combat power. The power of the sorcerer army would decrease, and the gap between them would snowball. This would greatly increase the hope of the southern region. Most importantly, King Jiang of the sorcerer race. Pa! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Just as the doomsday spear broke through the green light of the Shaman King Tianwu, a suffocating and terrifying pressure came from afar at an extremely fast speed. Other than the extremely bright white light, he could not see anything else. However, he knew very well what it was. Heavenly Ark. One of the three heavenly treasures. Indeed, Shaman King Jiang was too far away to save him. However, once he killed the Shaman King Tianwu, the heavenly arc would probably cut him in half in that short instant. If he dodged or blocked the heavenly arc's attack, Shaman King Tianwu would naturally be saved. Besieging Wei to save Zhao. It was up to him to make the choice. Whoosh! In the distance, Shaman Emperor Jiang had been deeply shocked since long ago. He'd guessed that Lin Feng's strength was extremely strong, but it was still difficult for him to imagine that Lin Feng's strength could increase to such an extent in a short period of time. With Shaman King Tianwu's strength, even a great saint wouldn't be able to kill him in a single move, but Lin Feng, too terrifying. Shaman King Jiang was greatly shocked, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. This child could not be left alive. Today, even if he had to pay a huge price, he had to kill Lin Feng. Otherwise, if the shaman race did not die in the hands of the demon race, they would probably die in the hands of this human who had the might of an emperor. At this moment, Shaman King Jiang finally understood why the one who died in the battle between the two emperor's stars was not the human Lin Feng, but the great saint. Lin Feng. Shaman King Jiang flew out. As his hands moved, the heavenly arc was extremely close to Lin Feng. With Shaman King Tianwu as the price, not to mention killing Lin Feng, even if he heavily injured him, in Shaman King Jiang's opinion, it was worth it. It all depended on Lin Feng's choice. As for Lin Feng, in an instant, he used his actions to replace his answer, kill without mercy. Chapter 1590. Lin Feng had unleashed his full power. Facing the unarmed Shaman King Tianwu, Lin Feng let out a loud roar and instantly unleashed his full power. An indigo-level light shot out from the doomsday spear in his hand like a dazzling light. Like fireworks, it instantly bloomed in all directions. Doomsday darkness. Lin Feng's killing intent was exposed. The indigo-level innate treasure Doomsday Spear once again displayed its ability. However, the Doomsday Darkness this time was different from the first time it was used. Just the aura alone had changed too much. The light that appeared when the spear was raised was also countless times brighter than before. Its power was boundless and majestic. Even the indigo-colored light had somewhat condensed into a black color. The Doomsday Darkness was an ability similar to a domain. It contained the mysteries of the Tao of Time. Although the warrior who used the Doomsday Spear didn't need to comprehend the Tao of Time, if a warrior who was proficient in the Tao of Time used the Doomsday Spear, he would be able to unleash the power of the doomsday darkness, weakening the flow of time and increasing the power of the domain. Of course, Lin Feng wasn't proficient in the Tao of Time. Even though his main body possessed the Pangui and was born with the Tao of Time and Space, Lin Feng wasn't familiar with the Tao of Time. It could even be said that he didn't have any contact with it. Why did the doomsday darkness increase in power so much? The answer was very simple. It was the power of the world. The biggest difference between an ordinary heaven-ranked innate treasure and a heavenly treasure was the energy. Any heaven-ranked innate treasure would have a little bit of the power of the world. The stronger the treasure, the more power of the world it contained. However, its foundation was ordinary star origin energy, which was a level lower than the power of the world. Heavenly treasures, on the other hand, were completely formed by the power of the world. Their power was naturally a level higher than heaven-ranked innate treasures. If it was the Lin Feng who hadn't cultivated the Pangu art, he wouldn't have been able to increase the power of the doomsday darkness. Even if he increased the spear's concept, it would be useless. The power of the doomsday spear was equivalent to the warrior's innate talent. It wasn't directly related to the spear's concept. However, now that it was powered by the power of the world, it gave the doomsday darkness a strong power of the world. Even if it didn't truly fused with the power of the world, just a little bit of the world's power was enough to make a huge difference. Black. The doomsday canopy mixed with black light appeared, causing the time in the entire area to become chaotic, and the flow of time instantly slowed down. This included Shaman King Tianwu's reaction to the attack, as well as Sky Arc. Die. A cold light flashed in Lin Feng's eyes. The doomsday spear shook, and the clouds rose. The starry sky-level spear concept was easily grasped without any effort. Over the past half a year, not only had he cultivated the Panga mantra, but he had also stabilized his spear art concept at the starry sky level. He had not just stepped into the starry sky level, but had truly entered it. No! Shaman King Tianwu screamed hysterically, his eyes bloodshot. The raging wind was unable to withstand that tiny bit of light. Only at this moment did he realize how terrifying the puny human in front of him was. Death was so close to him. Even though he was surrounded by countless Fey experts and had the protection of Magus King Jiang behind him, Magus King Tianwu was still frightened out of his wits. He only saw one person, one gun, and the black fog that filled the sky. It was as if the Grim Reaper had opened the sky. It completely enveloped him. Poof! Poof! The doomsday spear broke through all his defenses and instantly pierced through. With the infusion of the power of heaven and earth, the spear's power had reached a terrifying level. Killing a shaman king who had almost lost the ability to resist was nothing. Lin Feng didn't even have the slightest expression. In his opinion, even a great saint wouldn't be able to withstand this move. Shaman King Tianwu's death was only natural. The difference in strength was too great. Bang! Flesh and blood splattered, and was instantly covered by the black fog. Lin Feng had charged into the enemy camp alone and taken the life of the Shaman King of Tianwu. Lin Feng's boldness and arrogance made every powerful warrior's heart tremble. His cold eyes made him look like a living Azura, shocking the shaman army. How terrifying and powerful was that? Even someone as strong as Shaman King Tianwu couldn't withstand a single move. Death. Southern region, 9 great continents. Heavens! Oh my god, it can't be. Emperor Lin. Is it really Emperor Lin? How can his strength be so terrifying? Shaman King Tianwu died just like that? Countless thoughts appeared in everyone's mind. Shock, horror, surprise, and disbelief. Tongue-tied faces widened their eyes as they watched what happened in the sky, as if they were suffocating. At this moment, he could only see the spear, see the black silhouette, and hear the thumping of his own heartbeat. But the reaction of their consciousness changed drastically in an instant. At the instant Shaman King Tianwu's flesh and blood splattered everywhere and his body perished. A white circle of light that was almost impossible to see with the naked eye shot over at a terrifying speed. Sizzling sounds rang out like a venomous snake that had captured its prey. It flicked its scarlet tongue and tore space into pieces. Sky Arc. Shaman King Dijiang used his killing move. You will die. Dijiang's eyes were blood-red, and his killing intent was obvious. He had never thought that such a tragedy would happen. The shaman tribe had fought against the demon race for so long, and they hadn't lost a single shaman king. But today, in the southern region, the shaman tribe suffered heavy losses in the battle against the ant-like humans. That was a shaman king. Most importantly, Shaman King Tianwu had died in front of him. What a disgrace! Using both hands to the limit, Dijiang unleashed the third stage of the Sky Arc, accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air and the crazy killing intent of Dijiang. The timing was perfect. He killed Shaman King Tianwu while Lin Feng was still recovering. He wanted to kill Shaman King Tianwu and kill Lin Feng. However, even though the Sky Arc was powerful and fast, it was still affected by the darkness. However, being shrouded by the doomsday darkness still reduced his speed by a little. Even though this little bit of speed was almost invisible and was considered insignificant in a battle between Saint Kings, this little bit of speed and time was enough to change the outcome of the battle in the Douling world. Thunder Carapace Real Body. Lin Feng was like a ferocious beast. The moment he killed Shaman King Tianwu with the Doomsday Spear, it flew out like a sword. Time. The key was time. Clang. The sound of metal clashing could be heard as the Doomsday Spear mixed with its remaining power came into contact with the Heavenly Arc. As expected, it was knocked away by the Heavenly Arc. The collision was not on the same level at all, but in that instant the Doomsday Spear was weakened by a little more than the Doomsday Darkness. 1 point plus 1 point, it was 2 points. To Lin Feng, these 2 short minutes were the key to his victory. The great change between life and death. Chapter 1591. Space Tao, 3 Layers of Disorder. Lin Feng clenched his teeth and his hands moved quickly. Fast. Extremely fast. Facing the terrifying attack of the Sky Arc, Lin Feng didn't hide his strength and fully unleashed it. In an instant, the space in front of him became chaotic and the airflow became chaotic. Like layers of mountains, they formed 3 indistinguishable phantoms that made the Sky Arc shake violently. The shattering of space made the Sky Arc lose its target. An extremely powerful space Tao. Facing this extremely dangerous situation, Lin Feng unleashed his strength. Half a year might have passed in the blink of an eye for an ordinary warrior, but not for him. He had completed all 3 stages of the Panga technique, and his body had transformed into the Panga body. The power of heaven and earth had been poured into him, and his weak understanding of the Tao had now become a truly monstrous talent. His ability to understand was extremely terrifying. With the power of heaven and earth as the foundation, how could his ability to understand not be strong? Even ordinary starry sky experts might not have Lin Feng's powerful ability to comprehend the Tao. Lin Feng was able to merge with the starry sky and heaven and earth. It could be said that no one in the entire Douling world could compare to Lin Feng. The Tao that Lin Feng had comprehended over the past half a year was now showing its power for the first time. If it were any other opponent, this 3 layers of disorder alone would be able to dodge the Sky Arc attack. But Lin Feng's opponent this time was the Witch Emperor Dijiang. He was an old monster who had truly lived for countless years. He was a transcendent existence who specialized in the Tao of space. His comprehension of the Tao of space had already reached an extremely terrifying level. The fact that he was able to completely suppress the great saint that day was proof of his strength. The existence of the Heavenly Arc had allowed him to reach another level. Stupid! Di Jiang's eyes were filled with contempt. 3 layers of disorder? He was like a babbling baby in front of him. He had already comprehended and cultivated the space disorder series to the 6th level disorder realm. The gap was more than 10 million miles, and he had even reached the 7th level disorder realm. With his comprehension of the space disorder Tao alone, he could step into the level of a starry sky powerhouse, and not just any ordinary newbie. Break. Di Jiang raised his hand and his expression remained calm. It was very calm and very plain. It was as if he had broken it with just a wave of his hand. The 3 layers of confusion instantly shattered like building blocks, but the power of the heavenly arc did not weaken at all. In his eyes, Lin Feng's resistance was like the final struggle of an ant. Would it work? Di Jiang's eyes turned cold. Lin Feng's eyes could see that in the short time it took for Lin Feng's attack to be broken, a sharp cone-shaped golden shield had already formed on the surface of his body. The powerful gold origin had merged with it to form this defensive technique, which was quite surprising to Lin Feng. Calm in the face of danger. In fact, how could Lin Feng not know the ability of Witch Emperor Jiang, and the difference between them? Using the Tao of space in front of the Witch Emperor Jiang was like a child fighting in front of a warrior. It was completely useless. However, the casting of triple confusion only bought him a little time, and that little bit of time was enough for him to cast the strongest defensive move he had yet to learn. The Mountain of Golden Scales. In terms of strength, the quintessence of metal was comparable to the main body's blood phoenix. As for the Mountain of Golden Scales, it specialized in defense. One after another, in order to kill Witch King Tianwu, Lin Feng had already planned everything. Perhaps the power of the heavenly arc would be so great that it would be enough to kill him without any defense. However, with his strongest quintessence of metal defense, the Mountain of Golden Scales, together with Lei Zheng's true body, it would be enough to weaken most of the attack. As for the remaining power of the heavenly arc, he believed that his clone should be able to block it. Perhaps he would be injured, but he would definitely not die. And that was enough. Killing a Witch King level expert would bring about a situation in the southern region, and it was far more important than him being injured. Block it. Lin Feng's eyes were blood red, and he was almost hysterically screaming in his heart. Childish. Di Jiang's lips curled up coldly. As far as he was concerned, Lin Feng was already a corpse. His death was irreversible. Lin Feng, you are too confident and too greedy. You want to escape unscathed after killing the Witch King of my witch clan? You are underestimating me, Di Jiang. So what if you can weaken 90% of the power of the heavenly arc? Can your body block the remaining 10%? Witch King Jiang narrowed his eyes and sneered. This is not the second stage of the heavenly arc, but the third stage of the heavenly arc, the most powerful treasure of my witch clan. Die. A cold voice suddenly sounded. Accompanied by the voice that was like the might of the heavens, the heavenly arc instantly cut through the defense of the Mountain of Golden Scales. It was unstoppable. The sound of metal clashing caused the entire space to tremble. The power that shattered and fell in all directions caused the Witch Clan army to instantly cry out in pain. The Witch Clan army that was close to the battlefield suffered heavy casualties. However, Witch King Jiang did not care. Even Witch King Tianwu was dead, so what was the loss of the Witch Clan army? As long as he could kill Lin Feng and seize the Emperor Fate, although the losses in this battle were heavy, but it was still within his acceptable range. Staring at the heavenly arc, Witch King Jiang's eyes shone brightly. Break, break, break. The power of the heavenly arc was extremely strong, breaking through Lin Feng's defense. Even the spikes on the armor of Lei Zheng's true body were directly flattened. The power of the heavens and earth was filled with a strong destructive power. However, after being weakened layer by layer, the power of the heavenly arc was clearly decreasing. In the end, it cut through the defense of Lin Feng's body, bang! An intense sound of collision. In an instant, the burning passion in which King Jiang's eyes turned into shock and disbelief. The strong impact did not only hit the heavenly arc, but also heavily hit his heart. Looking at everything that happened in front of him, which King Jiang was completely shocked. The power of the heavens and earth was in chaos. In the middle of the terrifying power, there was a black-clothed youth standing upright. Lin Feng. Impossible. Which King Jiang felt suffocated. Although there was a huge wound on Lin Feng's waist, blood was flowing out, and he had lost half of his life force, but he was still alive. The blood at the corner of his mouth and the unyielding gaze was like an injured beast. His entire body was emitting a terrifying aura. The most shocking thing was the wound on his waist. It was slowly wriggling at a speed visible to the naked eye. The recovery speed was extremely shocking. Too terrifying. What kind of monster was this? Which King Jiang was truly shocked this time. In his opinion, even if his body was as strong as a great sage's, it would be impossible for him to block the attack of the heavenly arc. However, a mere human was able to block it? His hair stood on end. Which King Jiang's heart was beating fast and his spine was cold. However, the truth was right in front of his eyes. He would not lie. Human sovereign Lin Feng is indeed extraordinary. Clenching his teeth, which King Jiang's face was like iron. The killing intent in his eyes was even stronger. Although he was extremely shocked, which King Jiang was after all an ambitious and ruthless person. His reaction was extremely fast. At this moment, the killing intent in his heart was 100 times stronger than before. It was because he was very clear about the importance of this battle. If he could not get rid of this monster Lin Feng today, in the future, the witch race would definitely die in the hands of this child. Lin Feng must not be left alive. Behind Lin Feng was the Central Army, which had the largest number of soldiers and the most tacit understanding. The Water Curtain Cave branch led by Fang Ning and Shui Yu Mei could be said to be the result of the heavenly secret Saint Sovereign's lifetime of cultivation. Not only did they have formidable fighting strength, but they also helped each other. As they all cultivated the water origin, their strength could be condensed, strong or weak. In addition, with Lin Feng leading the way, they were like tigers that had grown wings. They could advance and retreat freely. In terms of combat strength, neither the left nor right corps could compare to the central corps. Of course, even if the southern region added in the powerful fighters from the Water Curtain Cave, there was still a huge difference in numbers between them and the Sorcerer Tribe's army. However, when thousands of divine beasts and ferocious beasts rushed out crazily and pounced on the Sorcerer Tribe's army, the difference between them was forcefully reduced. In addition to the increase in morale, the Sorcerer Tribe's army now had an overwhelming advantage. Humans! Boom! 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 With a strong murderous aura, the human army attacked the Sorcerer Tribe's army crazily. No one had expected that the humans would have an absolute advantage at the beginning of the battle. All of this was because of one person, his superb fighting strength. Human sovereign Lin Feng. Confrontation. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang looked at Lin Feng and his chaotic face was solemn. He would no longer underestimate the human before him who was like an ant. No matter what method Fang Ning had used to block his strongest attack, this opponent was worthy of his attention. That was the third stage of the Sky Arc's power. It was also the strongest power that he could control at the moment. Moreover, the fighting strength that the southern region had unleashed had shocked him. Although he had expected the southern region to have a large number of Hui, he had not expected the southern region to have such a large number of Sage-level and King Sage-level powerhouses. It was more than 10 times more than he had imagined. In just a few years, the southern region had become so powerful? Lin Feng, Di Jiang said in a deep voice as light flashed across his eyes. Lin Feng replied indifferently. You and I are both humans. There is no need to kill each other. If you are willing to submit to the sorcerer tribe, I will treat you well, Di Jiang said in a deep voice with a calm expression. Ha ha! Lin Feng was stunned and laughed. Beat me first! With a loud shout, Lin Feng could not be bothered to talk nonsense. He knew Sorcerer Emperor Jiang's tricks very well. If he paid attention to such a trick, he would have fallen for it. There was no way to avoid this battle. Since the southern region had revealed their trump card, there was no way for them to retreat. Today they would suffer a crushing defeat. Otherwise, the southern region would rise from then on. Now, he no longer needed to endure. Doomsday Spear. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. A shadow flashed in his hand and the Doomsday Spear appeared. An indigo light bloomed and caused the space to shake. In an instant, the wind blew and clouds billowed. The surroundings were covered in black light. The power of heaven and earth was contained in it. The darkness of doomsday. The spear rose and the region fell. The flow of time was slow and rapid. The starry sky level spear art concept burst out in an instant. It was much stronger than when he killed Sorcerer King Tianwu. Facing Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, he could not hold back. Although his chest hurt and his injury was not light, it aroused his fighting spirit. He knew why he was injured and who he was fighting for. At this moment, he was no longer alone. He shouldered the entire human race. He could not be defeated. Clouds open. Lin Feng's Doomsday Spear stabbed out like a meteor. The clouds opened and the second move burst out. Humph! Di Jiang snorted but did not care. He was here to disturb Lin Feng. It would be good if he succeeded. It did not matter if he did not succeed. It's just the time domain. Break. Di Jiang raised his hand, and without any effort, the powerful path of space instantly burst forth. The area covered by the Doomsday Spear seemed to crack in an instant, and in the blink of an eye, the indigo and black area was swallowed up and crushed, leaving nothing behind. Even the Doomsday Spear was slightly affected. Whoosh! Di Jiang leaped lightly and retreated. He had extreme speed and the strongest heavenly treasure in the entire Dou Ling world, Sky Arc. He did not need to fight Lin Feng head-on. He only needed to control the Sky Arc to attack continuously, and he could slowly grind Lin Feng to death. He could attack and defend, killing two birds with one stone. A light flashed in his eyes. In fact, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was also a little afraid. After all, the physical strength that Lin Feng had displayed before was too terrifying. Close combat was not good for him. Chapter 1593. Lin Feng's heart trembled. Which Emperor Jiang's retreat was unexpected. Even in the two battles he had with great sages, Meng Chao had never seen him retreat even once. His body might not be as strong as a great sage, but he could control the heavenly arc, had the strongest space Dao, and had extreme speed. Close combat was definitely not Di Jiang's weakness. But now, the strongest person in the Dou Ling world had actually retreated? He's indeed powerful, Lin Feng thought to himself. Which Emperor Jiang had already faintly figured out his own strength from a short collision before they had even officially fought. Indeed, Meng Chao was best at close combat. In comparison, long-range attacks were his weakness. He could only rely on the heaven-ranked treasure, the Green Dragon Ruler, to attack. Even a great sage could easily defend against it. Although he could inject the power of heaven and earth, his doppelganger's strength was not the soul. Even if the Green Dragon Ruler could hurt Witch Emperor Jiang, the problem was, could it hit him? Not to mention Di Jiang's super-strong control of the Space Dao, the Heavenly Arc alone could completely suppress the Green Dragon Ruler. As for the Demon Underworld Lock, Meng Chao had no intention of using it. The Demon Underworld Lock was like a toy in front of Witch Emperor Jiang. It was completely useless. Whoosh! The extremely strong pressure appeared again. The heavenly arc tore the space apart again. which Emperor Jiang clearly did not intend to give Lin Feng any chance to breathe. Cautious, extremely cautious. Lin Feng held the World Annihilation Spear and felt troubled. Meng Chao's chest injury was not light, and his aura had deliberately dropped by a level. If it were any other warrior, they would have taken the opportunity to beat him while he was down. However, Di Jiang was as steady as a rock and did not fall for it. To be able to lead the witch race to defeat the demon race in the second great witch race and counterattack in the third great witch race in such a short time, which Emperor Jiang was indeed a true hero. There's no other way. Lin Feng let out a long sigh. Meng Chao's original plan was to defeat Witch Emperor Jiang as soon as possible and severely injure the witch race. However, Meng Chao's plan had failed. It was destined to be a long battle between him and Di Jiang. Fortunately, I killed Witch King Tianwu. The strength of the two armies should be about the same. It's still unknown who will have the advantage. Lin Feng's eyes widened. Facing the terrifying attack of the Heavenly Ark, he wasn't afraid at all. With a roar, the World Annihilation Spear struck out. Attack against attack. Demon Emperor Island. Greetings, Mistress Fox Princess. A fox demon expert cupped his hands in greeting. Fox Princess smiled faintly. She glanced at the experts of the Fox Demon clan. Light flashed in her eyes as she said softly, "All of you leave." "Yes, my lord." The Fox clan experts guarding the palace retreated respectfully. Ever since the great sage came out of seclusion, he had not returned to Demon Emperor Island. Naturally, the demon clan's important land needed someone to protect it. This responsibility fell on Fox Princess's shoulders. To Fox Princess, this was undoubtedly a good job. She was not willing to get involved in a boring war. After all, in terms of strength, she was the weakest among the 4 demon emperors. Soon, only Fox Princess and the Fox Demon expert were left in the palace. "So long." Fox Princess glanced at him with a coquettish tone that could make one's bones go soft. The Fox Demon expert smiled strangely. His aura and appearance changed in an instant, revealing a pair of bright and unruly eyes. It was the appearance of a human man. His body was not strong, but it revealed the aura of a holy king. His strength was not weak, especially his eyes, which were full of ambition. Lamb talk tea. There are many things to do in the extreme middle. Plus, I just entered, so there will be many tests. Lamb talk tea smiled faintly. He moved to the side of Fox Princess and sat down casually. "If Extreme Middle knows that I am conspiring with you, the plan will be ruined. Huang Jifu is indeed smart and ambitious, but he is too arrogant." Fox Princess smiled. "How can he really take you seriously? In his eyes, the only opponent is Witch Emperor Jiang. He doesn't even care about the 4 demon emperors. No matter what, it's best to be careful," Lamb Talk Tea said. "Even so, you can't make me wait for so long," Fox Princess exhaled, her face flushed red. Her snake-like fingers stroked Lin Quan's chest, radiating a seductive charm. She gently unbuttoned Lin Quan's shirt and gave him a seductive look. "Sweetheart, okay." Lamb Talk Tea smiled and patted Fox Princess's fingers, interrupting her. "Let's talk about business first." "Okay." Fox Princess curled her lips and rubbed the back of her hand as if she was wronged. Lamb Talk Tea's eyes were burning. "How's the situation in the cemetery? With the speed of the death energy absorption, a few dead spirit masters should have been born, right? What's the hurry?" Fox Princess smiled. "Even if they are born, it's just a few. It won't help the situation at all. Let's wait a little longer. In less than a year, our army of dead spirit masters will start to take shape. No matter how many astral treasures the witch race has, they will have to step aside." Lamb Talk Tea nodded, his eyes revealing a hint of passion. The army of dead spirit masters was his trump card and the key to whether he could rise in the future. This batch of dead spirit masters had gathered a large number of saint-level and saint-king-level experts from the witch race and the demon race. Not only did they need to control it, but they also needed to consume energy. They didn't even have saint-king-level existences. But there was an army of dead spirit masters, and there were many of them. Most importantly, every dead spirit master had a true immortal body. They couldn't be killed. On the battlefield, immortality was a powerful force. Wait until the first batch of dead spirit masters comes out, then put in the second batch. Lam Tok Ti slowly opened his mouth and smiled coldly. The second batch of dead spirit masters is far more than the first batch. Once all of them are refined, we will truly have the ability to contend against the witch race and the demon race. After all, the death energy was limited. Once too many dead spirit masters were put in, it meant that the energy that could be absorbed at the same time would be less. Therefore, Lam Tok Ti was not in a hurry. Step by step, little by little. Who told you to be so impatient? Fox Princess glanced at him and complained. Actually, we could have gone a long way and collected little by little. This is great. The continuous defeats made the other 4 emperors very dissatisfied. They kicked you out of the demon race. There's no more chance. You don't understand. Lam Tok Ti shook his head. He didn't explain too much. Although Fox Princess was smart, there were many things she didn't know. After all, he was not a member of the demon race. Niu Yunlei was polite to him on the surface, but in fact, he was just a chess piece. Going a long way? Easier said than done. Who knew when he would be kicked out of the demon race? Being in the Emperor's company was like being in the company of a tiger. This kind of feeling was not so good. It was better to earn enough in one go and retire. Instead of being kicked out by the demon race, Lam Tok Ti actually resigned. After a big defeat, he took the initiative to leave. Niu Yunlei and Kuei Tianyuan did not stop him. In fact, even if Lam Tok Ti did not take the initiative to leave, he would have been kicked out. It was just that, taking the initiative to leave, at least they did not have a falling out. Well, you're smart. Fox Princess was coquettish and angry, her delicate hands constantly teasing Lam Tok Ti. Sweetheart, tell me, what are you going to do next? Next. Lam Tok Ti pondered for a moment, then suddenly smiled and grabbed Fox Princess's hand. With a bit of desire in his eyes, he laughed and tore open Fox Princess's gauze gown. Of course it's to conquer you, you coquettish fox. In a flash, Fox Princess giggled, and the whole hall was filled with a charming and gentle color. Southern region, 9 continent. So strong. Since when did our southern region become so strong? Too strong. They can actually fight the shaman tribe's army head-on without falling into a disadvantage. That giant bell is so powerful. That's right, as long as the shaman tribe's experts are covered by that giant bell, they will be killed in an instant. And that young cultivator with 2 swords, he's so sharp, and there's also a giant dragon protecting him. He single-handedly turned the shaman tribe's army upside down. That white-robed young man is too handsome. Wow, he can actually hold back the shaman king Shi Jiuyin one-on-one. That side is not bad either. That's shaman king Gomang. He's currently being attacked by 3 of our human race's strongest experts. Countless battle scenes were shown on the screen in the sky. King Yen, King Lu, and even Shi Jixin, Jin Ji, and other experts' names were mentioned by countless people at this moment, and their reputations soared. But the most eye-catching ones were the other 3 experts, Wan Macho, Xiao Jian, and Fang Ning. Especially Fang Ning, who did not fall into a disadvantageous position when facing the shaman king Shi Jiuyin alone. How powerful was he? In the past, which of the human race's 12 saint kings could do that? However, regardless of whether it was Fang Ning, Xiao Jian, or Wan Macho, they were all too low-key, and no one knew their background. It was the same for the humans and the shaman tribe. Therefore, even the cautious shaman King Jiang suffered a little in arranging his troops this time. At this moment, the shaman tribe and the human race were in an abyss of suffering, neither side gaining the upper hand. The casualties were heavy, but the shaman tribe was far superior to the human race. After all, many of the human race's casualties came from the astral treasure Qi, which could be resurrected infinitely. What the discerning people could see was, the southern region had a slight advantage, and the biggest contributor to all of this was undoubtedly Lin Feng. Killing Shaman King Tian Wu greatly boosted the morale of the southern region, and like a rolling snowball, the southern region's advantage rapidly expanded. Wan Macho and Xiao Jian, who were originally sent to hold back Shaman King Tian Wu, were suddenly free. Both of them were at the peak of their strength. Other than the Shaman Kings, who else in the Shaman tribe's army could be their match? The gap was created by Wan Macho and Xiao Jian. The advantage of the Shaman tribe's Saint Kings was instantly wiped out, and even as the Shaman tribe's Saint Kings suffered more and more casualties, the southern region's advantage would only increase. This was the chain effect of a rolling snowball. Coupled with Emperor Qian Lian's deployment of troops and Lin Feng's invincible strength, the human race was slowly moving towards the moment of creating a miracle. On the other side, whoosh, whoosh, two figures, one in front and one behind, had already left the battlefield. It was Lin Feng and Shaman King Jiang. They had to leave, or else the shaman tribe would undoubtedly suffer the greatest loss of energy fluctuations. In this open area, the two great experts kept chasing each other, and it seemed that neither of them could do anything to the other, but that was not the case. After a period of fighting, the one who was at a disadvantage was indeed Shaman King Jiang. How can this be? Di Jiang gritted his teeth, and his expression was a little ugly. Why hasn't his speed decreased at all? Chapter 1594. Dodge Chase. Attack Attack. Facing Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, Lin Feng used all his methods. Chase he couldn't catch up. Both of them were using extreme speed. How could he catch up? In addition, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang used Sky Arc to block from time to time. Lin Feng couldn't dodge at all. After all, the control of the Sky Arc was in Di Jiang's hands. Even if he dodged the Sky Arc, as long as Di Jiang willed it, the Sky Arc would come back from behind and attack again. Dodge, it would only be a waste of time. Rather than that, he might as well meet force with force. At least, Lin Feng was very confident in his current strength. Even though the Sky Arc's power had reached the third stage and the power of heaven and earth was extremely dense, his own attacks weren't bad either. His spear moves and spear art concept were perfectly coordinated. With the power of heaven and earth, he could block the Sky Arc's attacks time and time again. As for the strong reaction force, it was nothing to his current body. The impact it received would be instantly repaired. However, every block would take some time, so he couldn't get close to Sorcerer Emperor Jiang. Troublesome. Lin Feng frowned. If he didn't limit his speed, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang's speed wouldn't be comparable to his. One must know that his absolute speed was more than 20 times faster than his extreme speed. How much faster could Sorcerer Emperor Jiang be? However, he was limited by the Douling world and could only use extreme speed. There was indeed another way, which was to use a control-type treasure to stop him. However, against Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, who was proficient in the Tao of Space, his control method was too weak. If he couldn't do it with either method, then he could only exhaust him. Exhaust him, restrain him. I wonder how the southern region is doing. Even though Lin Feng was fighting, he was still worried. He didn't know that Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was even more anxious than him. Exhaust him? Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was indeed planning to do so. After all, compared to Lin Feng, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was truly experienced in the battlefield and had a deep foundation. He could afford to exhaust Lin Feng slowly. However, he was already shocked. He had exhausted a lot of his strength, but Lin Feng seemed to be fine. He didn't see any signs of weakness. One must know that using extreme speed was extremely taxing on the body. How can he maintain extreme speed? Impossible. Shaman Emperor Jiang was overwhelmed with shock. Little did they know that to Lin Feng, maintaining his maximum speed was as easy as walking. Would it be the same if his absolute speed was 2 times or 20 times his maximum speed? Even if he maintained his maximum speed, the energy he would need to expend 20 times his normal speed would be 1/10 of his normal speed. The consumption rate was naturally different. On top of that, Lin Feng's heaven and earth energy was pouring into his body, allowing him to replenish his energy at a much faster rate than astral source energy. Otherwise, just the collision with the sky arc would have consumed a large amount of Lin Feng's strength. After all, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was only controlling the sky arc, while Lin Feng was borrowing the power of the World Annihilation Spear. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Even so, the first thing that needed to be exhausted was... It was which Emperor Jiang. This won't do. If this continues, we'll lose for sure. Which King Jiang's face turned ugly. He knew very well what would happen if he couldn't maintain his maximum speed. One wrong move and the whole game would fall apart. At that time, his strength would be consumed more than Lin Feng's. His close combat was weaker than Lin Feng's to begin with. He probably wouldn't even have half a chance of winning this battle. But if he chose to fight Lin Feng in close combat, would he be able to win? The chances were still slim. What to do? What should he do? Cold sweat broke out on which Emperor Jiang's forehead. It had been too long since he was forced to this extent. Even during the Second Great War of the Witches and Demons, he could only endure and endure. He had never encountered such an embarrassing situation since he started cultivating. He was actually afraid. Bang! The sky arc was knocked away. Which Emperor Jiang's face turned pale. He deeply felt the danger. Every time they blocked the sky arc, it seemed that they were evenly matched. However, in reality, the sky arc always had a slight advantage. But this time, it was truly a draw. It wasn't that Lin Feng's strength increased, but his strength had weakened. Damn it! Could it be that he, the Witch Emperor, was going to be defeated here today? Impossible! Which Emperor Jiang clenched his fists tightly, his veins popping out. At this moment, his emotions were complicated. However, as arrogant as he wouldn't admit defeat so easily. His eyes shone with determination. He had experienced countless battles and was always able to turn danger into safety. He relied on this indomitable fighting spirit. He would never lose. There's still a chance. There's still a chance. His gaze fell on Lin Feng's body and his spear move. A trace of cunning flashed across which Emperor Jiang's eyes. In order to obtain victory, he had always been unscrupulous. Oh? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He was overjoyed. After waiting for a long time and fighting for a long time, he finally felt that which Emperor Jiang's strength was not enough. In this collision, the reaction force on his body had obviously decreased. Obviously, controlling the sky arc again and again, although it only consumed a little bit of energy each time, it was still able to penetrate a rock. Moreover, controlling a heavenly treasure was definitely not an easy task. Although he was secretly delighted, Lin Feng still didn't dare to be careless. After all, he wasn't facing an ordinary person. He was facing the most powerful expert in the Douling world, which Emperor Jiang. Could it be that he only had this trick up his sleeve? Of course not. Bang! Instantly, the space froze. The ground seemed to have collapsed. Lin Feng sank. He felt his body become heavier. The gravity of the ground suddenly increased. The area that had collapsed was like a quagmire that wanted to drag him down. However, these effects didn't affect him much. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He looked around. At this moment, He could faintly see layers of golden light flickering, revealing a purple aura hidden within. Lin Feng took a light breath. His expression instantly became serious. Purple grade innate treasure. Naturally, it wouldn't be an Earth grade innate treasure. For which Emperor Jiang to use it and be effective against a sage king like him, it must be a heaven grade innate treasure. And the purple grade innate treasure was undoubtedly the strongest innate treasure he had encountered so far. Even on the Supreme Do Ling World ranking, there were only 3 purple grade innate treasures. They were firmly ranked in the top 3. And this one with a layer of golden light flickering, which could cause the ground to collapse and shake, was 9-level Golden Brilliance Pagoda. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. Number 1 on the Supreme Do Ling World ranking, the strongest 9-level Golden Brilliance Pagoda. Extreme control, attack, and defense in one. It could be said to be the most comprehensive innate treasure. To be able to be ranked as the strongest treasure in the Do Ling world, the 9-level Golden Brilliance Pagoda was extremely extraordinary. As far as he knew, the 9-level Golden Brilliance Pagoda had appeared before the Second Great Witch Demon War and had fallen into the hands of 2 sage kings. After that, its whereabouts were unknown. He didn't expect it to be in the hands of Witch Emperor Jiang. That's right. How could the strongest person in the Do Ling world not have the top 3 treasures of the Supreme Do Ling world ranking? Lin Feng pondered and came to a realization. After all, the innate treasure had just appeared. Which Emperor Jiang had already become the strongest person in the Do Ling world during the Second Great Witch Demon War. It would be a joke to say that such a strong person didn't have a decent heaven-grade innate treasure. It was just that very few people could see Witch Emperor Jiang in action. Basically, those who saw him in action were already dead. Very strong. Lin Feng frowned slightly. A huge pressure kept coming, restraining him. The gravitational force strengthened, and the suffocating power in all directions was even stronger. This was one of the unique skills that made the 9-level Golden Brilliance Pagoda famous, Earthquake of the Heavens. Control Type Domain Ability. Different from ordinary control-type treasures, Earthquake of the Heavens couldn't be broken at all unless one left its range. Once one was entangled in close range, the domain ability would be able to unleash its strongest power. At that time, one's strength would be severely weakened. But, which emperor you want to fight in close range? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He looked like he was having a hard time resisting the power of the domain ability. In fact, it wasn't so. If it was him before, this domain ability might be able to cause a lot of trouble. But now, his body was so strong that he didn't fear it at all. Speed weakening? How much? 50%? 60%? 70%? One had to know that his absolute speed was more than 10 times his maximum speed. Even if it was weakened, he could still maintain his maximum speed. Most importantly, once he unleashed the power of heaven and earth, this domain ability would be annihilated instantly. Although it couldn't be broken, it could weaken its power by a lot. He was confident that as long as Witch Emperor Jiang dared to fight him in close range, he would definitely lose. But would Di Jiang, who had always been cautious, come? Lin Feng thought to himself and was looking forward to it. On this side, Lin Feng and Di Jiang were confronting each other. On the other side, there was a fierce battle. Boom, boom, boom. As countless divine beasts at the peak of the sage level and ferocious beasts rushed in and attacked, the damage to the sorcerer tribe's army increased. In particular, the experts from the 8 major territories who participated in the battle were cut up like grass. They were killed and couldn't resist at all. They were all human beings, but the gap between them was huge. Thousands of miles away, Zhuo, who was in charge of the central area of the alliance of the 8 major territories, heard about the battle. His eyes were bigger than copper bells. He couldn't understand how the southern region could become so powerful in such a short time. They were fighting the sorcerer tribe without being at a disadvantage, and they had the upper hand? What a joke! In fact, this shock floated in the hearts of every person in the southern region. Advantage? Indeed, the southern region had gained the upper hand. Like a rolling snowball, Lin Feng freed Wan Macho and Xiao Jian, and Wan Macho and Xiao Jian also freed the southern region's Saint King Realm experts, while the other Saint King Realm experts freed the ordinary Saint King Realm experts. Chain after chain, the southern region's advantage continued to grow. On top of Huey's immortal body, the southern region's advantage became more obvious. On the other hand, the sorcerer tribe's army was completely suppressed. Little by little, the southern region's army was infiltrated and crushed. Impossible! Shi Juin's face was ashen. He had never imagined that the battle he was certain of winning would turn out like this. But he didn't have time to think about it. The water curtain in front of him was filled with rich origin energy, and the tyrannical power of the waterfall sealed the space around him. Fong Ning, who had the power of 100 waterfalls, was also invincible. Chapter 1595. Here it comes. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold. The opportunity he had been waiting for had finally arrived. Sure enough, the moment the 9-story Golden Brilliance Pagoda was used, Wizard King Dejiang advanced instead of retreating. Indeed, there was no need to guess. After all, the 9-story Golden Brilliance Pagoda was the real suppression for close combat. If it was only used to trap the enemy, it was not even as good as an ordinary control treasure. If Dejiang still wanted to attack with the Sky Arc, he did not need to block it. He could just use the force to leave the range of the 9-story Golden Brilliance Pagoda. If the 9-story Golden Brilliance Pagoda was used again, it would consume more power. Obviously, Dejiang was not stupid. But whoosh! Just as it was in front of him, the Sky Arc slid out again. This time, it was very different from before. The rich chi of heaven and earth was far more powerful than before, and it was difficult to dodge at such a close distance. The tearing of space caused a violent buzzing sound. Lin Feng frowned and was slightly puzzled. Attack with the Sky Arc before close combat? Dejiang should know that the Sky Arc's long-range attack had no effect on him. Why waste power? Affect his state? Force him to defend or dodge and lose the advantage of close combat. Many thoughts instantly appeared in Lin Feng's mind, but he did not understand. Lin Feng pursed his lips, but he was not in the mood to continue guessing. There seemed to be a halo of light in front of him. Its might was terrifying, and it was much stronger than the countless times he had blocked it before. World Destroyer Spear. Lin Feng roared and stepped forward with his right foot. With one step, the 9-story Golden Brilliance Pagoda shook. Clouds rose, and the spear's artistic conception led to the explosion of the power of heaven and earth. Lin Feng tried his best to resist, and naturally would not give the Sky Arc any chance to hurt him. There was no need to think too much. If he wanted to fight, he would fight to his heart's content. No matter what Dejiang's intention was, or what the next move would be, he would deal with it as he saw it. Pung! The explosion sounded again. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. The huge impact was mixed with the power of the Sky Arc. No matter how strong his strength was, it was weakened by the 9-story Golden Brilliance Pagoda, and his arm was a little numb. The third stage of the Sky Arc was quite strong. If it was an ordinary Saint King at the peak, he might not be able to take even one move from Dejiang. Even if it was him, he wouldn't be able to withstand too many of these full-powered attacks. Of course, it was also impossible for the Shaman Emperor Jiang to maintain this level of attack. Otherwise, how could he be safe and sound right now? While he was thinking, suddenly, boom! Above his head, an extreme pressure burst forth. Lin Feng trembled and jerked his head up. The boundless golden light was imbued with the power of heaven and earth, forming the shape of a massive pagoda. It was as if it was high up in the sky, but also as if it was close at hand. Boundless power appeared like the weight of Mount Tai. Coupled with the terror of the earth shaking heaven and earth, the pincer attack instantly increased the binding force on his body by tenfold. Especially, Pa. His right arm shook violently, and the weight of the Doomsday Spear seemed to have increased by hundreds or thousands of times. Lin Feng's eyes widened. The target was not him. However, it was too late to stop it now. Just as he was about to recover his strength, the Doomsday Spear was struck by a pagoda-shaped golden light. His right arm went numb and he lost his grip. The Doomsday Spear fell straight into the abyss. Wah! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He wanted to recall the Doomsday Spear, but he was blocked by a huge force. Bang! Pa! It was as if he had reached a wall, isolating himself from the summoning. He could only watch as the Doomsday Spear fell into the abyss and was suppressed, but he couldn't do anything. Lin Feng clenched his fists. His heart was filled with mixed feelings, and he was speechless. Who would have thought that the shaman Emperor Jiang would spend so much effort to control the 9-story golden pagoda for his Doomsday Spear? He couldn't defend against it. He could indeed break through this suppression method, but it would take a lot of time. With the shaman Emperor Jiang watching him, how could he recall the Doomsday Spear? For warriors, especially those in the sky martial arts realm, the price of losing their weapons was quite heavy, especially when they only had one suitable weapon. The shaman Emperor Jiang was gambling. He gambled that Lin Feng only had one Doomsday Spear, only one long spear that could unleash all of his power. And he won the bet. He was barehanded. Lin Feng stood in the air, surrounded by golden light. The 9-story golden pagoda's domain was extremely large, like a boundless sea, constantly exerting an extremely strong pressure. The space in front of him seemed to shatter, and a chaotic figure suddenly appeared in the void. A pair of cold and emotionless eyes looked over, and his wings were spread out high above. The shaman Emperor Jiang. His attainments in the way of space had reached perfection. Lin Feng, I'm impressed by your strength, Di Jiang said in a low voice, with some magnetism. Really? Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. Although his weapon was taken away, he wasn't angry. There was no trick in a battle, only victory or defeat. Maybe Di Jiang's actions were shameful in the eyes of warriors, but so what if he did it? If Di Jiang won in the end, and Lin Feng was killed, then who would know that Di Jiang had done such a despicable thing? Winner takes all, it was that simple. Is the second weapon still handy? Di Jiang said indifferently, his eyes shining. It seemed to be provocation and disdain, but Lin Feng knew that Di Jiang was testing him. This old fox was very cautious and cunning. Even if he didn't have a weapon now, he still didn't enter the range of the 9-story golden pagoda and kept a certain distance from him. How could a martial artist only carry one weapon? It was just that they often used the best one. The weapon was connected to the soul, and the strength could be unleashed perfectly. Generally speaking, it was not bad if the second weapon could unleash 80% of the strength. Many stubborn warriors would only recognize one weapon, as long as the sword existed, and die if the sword forgot the person. Especially the Doomsday Spear that Lin Feng used, which was an indigo-level innate treasure. How many indigo-level innate treasures were there in the entire Do Ling world? Not to mention that it was a type of spear, and it was in such a shape. It wasn't handy, most likely. If I say I don't have a second weapon, would you believe me? Lin Feng replied indifferently, but it made Wizard Emperor Di Jiang frown slightly. Don't have a second weapon? Wizard Emperor Di Jiang looked at Lin Feng with doubt in his eyes. He didn't dare to be sure. He had personally experienced how powerful Lin Feng's spear was. It could even block the third stage of the Sky Arc attack, which showed how powerful it was. He dared to say that in the entire Do Ling world, there were less than one hand that could surpass the power of Lin Feng's spear. concentrating all his strength to unleash the strongest power of the Doomsday Spear. There was a high possibility that he only had one spear. If you dare to say it, I dare to believe it, Wizard Emperor Dijiang said. Lin Feng smiled. One Doomsday Spear in exchange for a 9-story golden pagoda, it might not be a bad deal. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He stared at the Witch King Jiang, smiled and said, I don't have any weapons. Now is the best time to kill me. Witch King, why aren't you coming? An invisible showdown. A battle of wits and courage. Wizard Emperor Dijiang looked at Lin Feng and couldn't figure out Lin Feng's strength. What Lin Feng said was true. Or was he pretending to be calm to intimidate others? Was he at his wits' end? Wizard Emperor Dijiang's eyes flickered. He couldn't calm down. Just as Lin Feng said, now was the best chance to kill him. However, he felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. But if they continued to fight, he didn't have the confidence to kill Lin Feng before he exhausted all his strength. He might be exhausted by Lin Feng instead. Unless he ended this battle, otherwise, he had no other choice. Killing intent flashed in Dijiang's eyes. White light flickered under his feet, and the sky arc appeared and spun rapidly. The buzzing sound was ear-piercing. The sky arc spun constantly, changing the space. It was an extremely profound application of the Tao of space. Since I took your weapon, I won't hurt you with the sky arc, Dijiang shouted. In a split second, clang. With a cracking sound, the sky arc spun at a terrifying speed. Dijiang instantly flew into the 9-story tower of golden brilliance. He broke through the air and attacked. His speed was almost half of the maximum speed. It was quite terrifying. Absolute speed was often not very useful in a battle. Instead, explosive power and agility were more important in a one-on-one battle. I didn't expect that the dignified Wizard Emperor's skin was thicker than the city wall. Lin Feng laughed in a carefree manner. He clasped his hands together, and the mountain of golden scales appeared once more. Dense metal quintessence protected him as he fought and retreated. His expression was calm, and he didn't seem flustered at all. He seemed confident. On the contrary, Wizard Emperor Dijiang's old face turned pale. Indeed, the sky arc had another strange function in close combat. It was used as a foot. Not only did it have explosive power far beyond the limit of the Saint King realm, but it also combined with the Tao of space. It could teleport, dodge, and switch at will. Its auxiliary function in close combat was ridiculously strong. Therefore, when Dijiang said that he wouldn't attack with the sky arc, it was obviously nonsense. In fact, attacking with the sky arc was far less efficient than assisting with the sky arc fight. Absolute space speed. Super space control. When Wizard Emperor Dijiang attacked, he knew how powerful his strength was. Back then, he could almost crush a great saint of the same strength. His strength was indeed terrifying. Tao comprehension. The Dijiang clan's talent was space control. Wizard Emperor Dijiang was a rare genius of the Dijiang clan. His space control had reached the point where he could control it as he wished. In fact, if he wanted to break through with one of the space Tao, he would have become a starry sky expert long ago. It was just that he didn't want to. He didn't want to be a mediocre starry sky expert for his short life. Therefore, he chose to continue cultivating and cultivating again. They controlled 3 different Taos of space: spatial disorder, spatial mincing, and spatial transformation. They were all accomplished. No matter which space Tao it was far more complicated than energy Tao and strength Tao. Wizard Emperor Dijiang was able to cultivate all 3 space Tao to mastery. It was rare even among starry sky experts. Once he broke through and became a starry sky expert, he would immediately become one of the best. In the Do Ling world, he was naturally invincible. But today, he met another genius. The human race's super genius, Lin Feng. Chapter 1596. Block. Defend. Faced with Dijiang's suppression, complete control of the path of space, and the restriction of the 9-story Golden Brilliance Pagoda, Lin Feng decisively chose to defend. Perhaps defense was his weakness half a year ago, but today Lin Feng had completely made up for it. The origin of metal was originally an origin that was extremely suitable for defense. That day the great sage was like this. Mountain of golden scales. Rhenium golden shield. Lin Feng retreated as he fought. One was in full defense, while the other was in sole defense. Although he was forced into a perilous situation by Dijiang, he did not actually suffer much damage. The rich origin of metal mixed with the power of heaven and earth made Lin Feng's defense impenetrable. Even if a little force penetrated his defense and entered his body, it was easily cut open. A strong body naturally had an advantage in close combat. There was no hurry. Lin Feng's expression was calm. He did not panic at all because his weapon had been stolen. As a martial artist, he had to face all kinds of difficulties, anxiety, and uneasiness. All kinds of negative emotions were useless. In the face of difficulties, he had to think of a solution himself. In fact, from Lin Feng's expression, one could not see that he was in a difficult situation. Under defense, he was happy and content. On the other hand, Shaman Emperor Dijiang was becoming more and more chaotic. There were no openings. Lin Feng's defense was even stronger than the Great Sage's. In terms of defense, the Great Sage might be better, but the Great Sage's speed was too slow, and his flexibility and agility were far inferior to Shaman Emperor Dijiang's. That was why he was dragged out by speed that day. However, Lin Feng was different. Perhaps in terms of explosive power, Dijiang with the Sky Arc was extremely strong, but Lin Feng was not weak either. After all, his body was too heaven-defying. How could his explosive power be weak when he exceeded the absolute speed limit by 20 times? It was like a child using all his strength to take a step, and a giant casually taking a step. This was the difference. In terms of explosive power, speed, agility, and dexterity, Lin Feng was far superior to Shaman Emperor Dijiang. In fact, if not for the suppression of the 9-story Golden Brilliance Pagoda, even if Dijiang had the help of the Sky Arc, Lin Feng with all his strength could still beat him. This was confidence, this was confidence. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. The constant defense did not consume much of his strength. On the contrary, the Shaman Emperor Zhang's face was already slightly pale. In terms of strength, the Shaman Emperor Dijiang was already at a disadvantage. Attack. The fiercer the attack, the greater the chance of you dying. Lin Feng did not retaliate. The calmness in his eyes was like the calm before the storm. It was suffocating. As for the Shaman Emperor Jiang, he had no other choice. If he left, the price would be too great. Even though he knew that Lin Feng was not easy to defeat, since it had started, it would not end so simply. Today, the two of them would definitely not be evenly matched. Victory and defeat would definitely be determined. I can't delay any longer. Dijiang's heart sank. The repeated attacks caused him to gradually lose his patience. He was clearly aware that if he were to delay any longer, then it would be the end of the world for him once his strength was exhausted. Instead of that, he might as well gather his strength and launch the final attack. Success or failure, it all depended on this strike. Boom! The aura seemed to explode. The Shaman Emperor Zhang's body was like an illusion, and instantly stopped in the air. The enormous 9-story golden tower above him trembled slightly, and the space within the tower seemed to have become unstable. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly, and his heart palpitated as he looked ahead. It felt extremely bad. The enormous spatial airflow was like numerous sharp arrows that shot out. Just the beginning was already so terrifying, and it could be seen how powerful the Shaman Emperor Zhang's move was. Clang! 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 Streaks of arrow-like spatial shuttles shot into the rhenium gold battle shield. He did not feel a strong impact, but there was a trace of spatial turbulence that contained a profound concept. What a powerful Tao of space! Lin Feng took a deep breath. His gaze swept across the surroundings, the dense Tao of space gathered, and the space changed continuously. The shaman Emperor Jiang closed his eyes, his hands forming seals, and the wings on his back opened up, like numerous bayonets that saw red. They were as thin as cicadas' wings, but they emitted a terrifying aura of power. Dijiang Shaman Clan, innate space. I can't wait. Lin Feng tightly pursed his lips, and he judged in his heart. His original plan was to first exhaust most of the Shaman Emperor Jiang's power, and then kill him in one go. But at this moment, he absolutely couldn't wait any longer. Even though he didn't know what kind of move Di Jiang was going to execute, the starting move was already so terrifying. If Di Jiang was allowed to successfully execute it, then not to mention killing Di Jiang, it was unknown whether he could even escape with his life. He could not gamble. Since that was the case, then, explode. Lin Feng's body instantly swelled, and the blood of Lei Jing crazily surged in his body. The appearance of Lei Jing's real body brought along a trace of wild power. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with killing intent, but it was clear and bright, and it went straight to his heart. The vigorous heaven and earth energy flowed rapidly, forming a cycle of energy that went straight into his right hand. Chi, chi, chi. A strange thing happened in an instant. At Lin Feng's right hand, the rich heaven and earth energy seemed to condense like fragments, shining brightly, and instantly forming the shape of a long spear. The long spear formed by the pure heaven and earth energy alone was extremely powerful, and the amount of heaven and earth energy needed to form it was quite terrifying. But Lin Feng could afford it. Cultivating the Pangu technique, Lin Feng's body was full of heaven and earth energy. Although he could not use it to fight for a long time, in a short time, there was no problem. Although it did not have a special ability like the Doomsday Spear, this illusory spear was formed by condensing the heaven and earth energy, and its power was much more terrifying than the Doomsday Spear. It was comparable to the power of a heavenly unique treasure. Moreover, it was formed by the heart and derived from strength, and its compatibility with the body was 100% perfect. Lin Feng's strongest move. His trump card was revealed. Cloud Rise. Lin Feng's eyes shone coldly, but he did not use Cloud Split. In terms of attack power, Cloud Split was stronger, but in terms of speed, Cloud Rise had the advantage. Moreover, the time he spent cultivating Cloud Rise was much longer than Cloud Split. Now, time was everything. Although Cloud Rise's power was lacking, the illusory spear's ability was comparable. The condensed power was much stronger than the Doomsday Spear's Cloud Split. Especially the speed, it was terrifyingly fast. Only a light dot was left. Like an illusion, it was almost impossible to see it. But at this moment, which Emperor Jiang's eyes suddenly opened. Cold light shot out in all directions, and his killing intent completely exploded. Profound Mystery 6 Ultimate Hell Wheel, which Emperor Jiang's face twitched and he roared crazily. The veins on his forehead were exposed, and all the strength in his body seemed to have been sucked out in an instant. His entire body exploded with hysterical terror, and in a split second, the entire space changed. Even the 9-floored Golden Brilliance Pagoda shook violently. The space shattered, and the domain broke. However, this domain was already useless. Compared to the terror of the Profound Mystery 6 Ultimate Hell Wheel, what was the domain of the 9-floored Golden Brilliance Pagoda? That was the combination of 3 Tao of space. It was a power that truly had unlimited power, and its power was extremely strong. Not good. Lin Feng's face instantly changed. Before he could react, a white brilliance appeared in front of him, and he instantly fell into a chaotic space. In the chaotic space, there were space shuttles everywhere, crazily shuttling back and forth. See. See, the chaotic space, covered by layers, continuously squeezed and shattered, squeezed and shattered. Here, there was no room for the existence of any life. Other than destruction, there was only destruction. In front of him, 2 layers of space overlapped, covering over, and the power was boundless. 4th layer, 5th layer, 6th layer. Lin Feng's face changed. In this half a year of painstakingly cultivating the Tao of space, he already had a small achievement in the chaotic space, and grasped the ability of 3 layers of chaotic space. But now that he saw Witch Emperor Zhang's profound mystery, he saw 6 layers of chaotic space, and this was only a small part of the profound mystery. There were other Tao of space that he could sense, but he didn't understand. Too strong. This was Witch Emperor Zhang's true strength. Break! Break! Break for me! Lin Feng roared, using all his strength as if he was crazy. He clearly understood that if he couldn't break through the spatial restrictions, then he would be swallowed up by this space sooner or later. The enormous spatial shuttle was constantly reducing his strength, and the overlapping layers of space seemed to be crushing his soul. The strength of such profundities far exceeded what he could bear right now. Swoosh! 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 The Witch Emperor's face changed. The power that he gathered in his hands was constantly dissipating. 1 second in the profound mystery space was only 1/millionth of a second outside. Every second was consuming his strength, and his hatred for Lin Feng was extremely deep. He clearly knew the power of this profound mystery, but he didn't really master it. Once he used it, his vitality would be damaged, especially when he encountered such a strong opponent like Lin Feng. Even if he could kill Lin Feng in the end, his vitality would be greatly damaged. But at this moment, he couldn't care about anything else. He had already sacrificed so much, so he had to win this battle. Die, Lin Feng! The Witch Emperor roared in his heart, and his strength surged madly. It was obvious that Lin Feng in the profound mystery space was already starting to get injured. The longer the battle dragged on, the slimmer Lin Feng's chances of survival were. The Sorcerer Emperor was willing to risk everything to kill Lin Feng, this human emperor with terrifying potential. His only goal was to kill him. At this moment it was too late for regrets. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have let Lin Feng restrain the great sage that day. Who would have thought that this human warrior with mediocre talent would be able to hold his own and even be on par with him? Lin Feng must die. No matter the price. The Witch Emperor Zhang's eyes were bloodshot and filled with killing intent. He was incomparably crazy. Feeling Lin Feng's strength weakening in the profound mystery space, he felt indescribably carefree, as if he was about to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Lin Feng's breath was already very weak, but, at this moment, the Witch Emperor Zhang's eyes widened, and his expression was one of shock. His hands moved rapidly, and his strength surged madly, but he was completely unable to stop the arrival of that terrifying breath. It pierced through the profound mystery space, and it was like an earth-shattering spear piercing from the distant horizon. It was completely condensed from the power of heaven and earth, and it carried a tyrannical and incomparable strength. That was the power of heaven, the explosion of life. Qi! In an instant, it pierced through the Witch Emperor Zhang's chest, and the power of heaven and earth exploded. In an instant, everything was annihilated into nothingness. Chapter 1597. 1. Lost? In the fog where the Qi of heaven and earth and star source energy intertwined, a human figure appeared. His body was bathed in blood, and there were countless wounds on his body. When the small wounds gathered together, it was incomparably terrifying. It was as if there was not a single piece of skin on his body that was intact. His aura was extremely weak. His face was pale and powerless. His hands were hanging in the air without any strength. Only his right hand still had the remnants of the illusory spear. Unfortunately, his strength could no longer be gathered. It was Lin Feng. It was hard to imagine that with such a heaven-defying physique, he could still be injured like this. In fact, if not for his strong physique defense, Lin Feng would not have been able to last until the last moment. Time and time again, he was injured, recovered, injured again, attacked again and again. Facing the pressure of survival, facing the desperate situation, facing his own promise, facing the safety of the southern region, at the last moment when he was on the verge of death, Lin Feng erupted. Cloudfall, I did not expect to comprehend it at this moment. Lin Feng looked ahead. He could vaguely see the existence of the Tao of space, but there was no longer Witch Emperor Jiang's aura. He was very clear that he was dead. The strongest person in the Douling world was killed by him. He did not think of killing him, but at the last moment, it was not up to him. The victory and defeat of the strong were usually just a hair's breadth away. It was so close that the one who died today was him, and not Witch Emperor Jiang. This strong person who stood at the peak of the Douling world was not only cautious and astute, his strength was also extremely terrifying. He was more or less lucky to be able to win. Fortunately, I have been comprehending Cloudfall for the past half a year, but I have not grasped its essence. Lin Feng smiled weakly. If Cloud Rise was said to be at the beginning, Cloudfall was said to be at the peak of life. One thought to go to heaven, one thought to hell. Which Emperor Jiang's ultimate move made him face the true despair of death. Just like the essence of Cloudfall, he finally comprehended it. Speaking of which, he had to thank him. The stronger the opponent, the more powerful the user would become. Which Emperor Jiang? Lin Feng muttered softly. He had a sense of respect for this strong person who stood at the peak of the Douling world. No matter what, he did his best for his race. From his standpoint, he did not do anything wrong. Shaman Emperor Jiang was indeed a great leader. Only when they truly fought and fought to the death would they know how strong he was. Based on his comprehension of the Tao of space alone, Yang Kai was certain that as long as he was willing, breaking through to the starry sky realm was just a matter of time. The reason why he hadn't made a breakthrough might be because he had a greater goal. It might also be because he was tied down by his clan and was unwilling to leave. But no matter what, the outcome could not be changed. Unfortunately, we are on different sides, Lin Feng murmured. His gaze landed on the spot where the Witch King Jiang fell. 3 rays of light flashed. Sky Arc, Lin Feng muttered to himself. With a weak wave of his hand, he collected the Sky Arc. Among them, the most precious was undoubtedly the Heavenly Arc, which was ranked first among the heavenly treasures. And 9-floored golden brilliance pagoda, Lin Feng said softly. It was an exquisite and translucent 9-story pagoda that emanated a faint golden glow. Presently, it was an ownerless object. Number 1 on the Supreme Douling ranking. I have gained quite a lot. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Obviously, the Witch King Jiang had many treasures. Sky Arc, 9-floored golden brilliance pagoda. What was the last one? Lin Feng was quite curious. In an instant, he collected the last one. It was a strange black model that looked like a door. It was extremely strange. This is... Lin Feng frowned slightly. He carefully recalled the information in his mind, but he did not have any impression of it. On the Supreme Douling ranking, there was no such existence. But for an existence like the Witch King Jiang to carry it with him, it was obviously an extraordinary object. It was probably an existence of the same level as the 9-floored golden brilliance pagoda. Ordinary innate treasures that had been refined by the Witch King Jiang would most likely die along with his fall. But this model of the black door was intact. I will go back and study it, Lin Feng thought to himself. He kept it and looked into the distance with a hint of anxiousness in his heart. His hands flashed and 2 star fruits appeared in his hand. In fact, after a short period of recovery, his body had regained the ability to move. It was just that his combat power was still weak. Of course, this weak was compared to his original strength. Gulp. Lin Feng swallowed and refined them without hesitation. The 2 star fruits were both of the best. They could heal injuries extremely quickly and restore a certain amount of strength. They were priceless in the Douling world. But to him, it was far less important than the situation of the war. He only needed to appear, and he did not even need to use any strength to raise the morale of the Southern Region army. On the other hand, the Sorcerer Tribe army was in chaos, because the Witch King Jiang had fallen. This was a disaster for the Sorcerer Tribe. The Southern Region has won this battle. A ray of light flashed in Lin Feng's eyes. The rich power of the heavens and earth spread out from his chest and flowed throughout his body. From now on, the Douling world will have one more powerful force. Lin Feng's gaze was as firm as a spear. The death of the Witch King Jiang would definitely shake the entire Douling world and even affect the situation of the Great War of the Sorcerer Tribe. From his standpoint, he naturally did not want him to die. But now that he had killed him, there was no point in regretting it. No matter what, his combat power had reached the peak of the Douling world. The Southern Region also had strong combat power. He believed that neither the Sorcerer Tribe nor the Demon Tribe would dare to underestimate the Southern Region. The Southern Region would truly rise. As for the future, he would deal with whatever came his way. What was there to be afraid of? In the wasteland world, a region that was shrouded in fog all year round. It was at the bottom of the abyss. There was no aura, and it was the most secretive place in the Douling world. It emitted a poisonous fog. Any martial artists below the saint level would die if they touched it. The illusory array at the bottom of the abyss could even make a sage king lose his sense of direction and fall into a trap. This was the headquarters of the largest force in the Douling world, Extremity. The Dual Polarity Palace. Located in the middle of the Dual Polarity Abyss, the Dual Polarity Palace was divided into the South Polarity Palace and the North Polarity Palace. The South Polarity Palace was in charge of handling the large intelligence network of the branch. It was in charge of earning money, diplomacy, and other external affairs. It could be said that the South Polarity Palace was the body of Extremity. It was the strongest and the largest body. It was also the most well-known part. But the root of Extremity, the soul, was not in the South Polarity Palace, but the North Polarity Palace. Unlike the bustling scene of the South Polarity Palace, the North Polarity Palace seemed to have melted into the ice and snow. The door of the palace was closed all year round. No martial artists could be seen coming in or out. It was like a desolate land. But that was not the case. The North Polarity Palace had the strongest combat power of Extremity. From the talented martial artists below the saint level to the top of the sage king level, they all cultivated in the North Polarity Palace all year round. They did not care about worldly affairs, nor did they care about fame and fortune. They only cared about strength. As the largest intelligence organization in the Douling world, how rich was Extremity? There was no need to guess. The Yen Imperial City, Lulan Kingdom, Underworld, and other heavenly spirit forces knew that Extremity was much richer than the Sorcerer Tribe. But where was this large sum of money spent? One had to know that Extremity did not buy or sell shops, locations, and so on. Many martial artists guessed that Extremity's wealth had piled up into a mountain of treasures. Some martial artists guessed that Extremity used his wealth to support the development of heavenly spirits secretly. There were even martial artists who guessed that Extremity was a hoarder and exchanged his wealth for various treasures and inheritances. There were all kinds of theories. But in fact, Extremity's wealth was used to nurture martial artists. Martial artists of the North Polarity Palace. Nurturing in secret just for the sake of rising up. Extremity's inheritance had been passed down for several generations, but every Extremity emperor of each generation was quite ambitious. They secretly accumulated power and waited for an opportunity. And when it came to Huang Jifu's generation, it was even crazier. Originally, Huang Jifu was a legend of his generation. When he was young, he was even more talented. He even had the ambition to challenge Sorcerer Emperor Jiang. But unfortunately, he failed in the end. Of course, such a genius would not be defeated so easily. Just like a treasured sword, failure only allowed him to sharpen himself, to understand himself more clearly and to have a clear goal. After that, Huang Jifu disappeared. After he came out of seclusion, he became Extremity. In a short period of time, he rose to the top and became the leader of Extremity. He was already a legend. Inside the Palace of Extremity. It was located between the South Palace and the North Palace. It was the place where the Extremity emperors lived and cultivated. Beat, beat. A crisp sound rang out. It was especially ear-piercing in this quiet Palace of Extremity. The green-clothed man who was sitting cross-legged in the cultivation room had an impatient expression on his face. He opened his eyes with a swoosh, and they shone with a sharp light. Just this aura alone was already extremely terrifying. Extremity Emperor Huang Jifu. Back then, Huang Jifu was only slightly weaker than Sorcerer Emperor Jiang. Now his power was even more unfathomable. Top-level intelligence? Huang Jifu was slightly surprised. His communication compass was indeed activated, but only the North Hall Master and the South Hall Master could contact him. It was set to sound an alarm only for top-level information. Normal information would not disturb his cultivation at all. Turning on the communication compass, Huang Jifu looked at the message on it. His eyes widened and his expression changed. With his power, he had seen all kinds of storms. There were very few things that could make him change his expression. But this time, Huang Jifu trembled. He was stunned. No, impossible. How could the old man die? How could he die? Huang Jifu roared furiously. His terrifying power spread out like a ferocious demon. He clenched his fists so hard that his veins popped out. His aura shattered the communication compass in the blink of an eye. Huang Jifu's eyes were bloodshot. He could not control his anger. Why? Old man Dijiang, how could you be killed by a human? Why didn't you wait for me? He was furious. He was mad. The terrifying aura even made the Palace of Extremity shake violently. No one knew what Huang Jifu was feeling. He had always thought of Sorcerer Emperor Jiang as his only opponent. He wanted to surpass him and defeat him. But just when he was 90% sure that he could kill Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, he was suddenly told that Dijiang was dead? Just like that? What a joke. This was the biggest joke in the world. Human? Lin Feng. Huang Jifu roared furiously. He looked like a furious lion. You're asking for death. Chapter 1598. Swish. Swish. Chi-chi. The sky was filled with divine beasts and ferocious beasts. There were thousands of them, and the number of divine beasts and ferocious beasts at the peak of the Saint Realm was more than 1,000. They roared and howled as they tore at the giant sorcerer tribe experts. The scene was no less spectacular than any beast tide. It was as if all the divine beasts and ferocious beasts in the Douling world had gathered. No. Damn it! Kill the humans. It's useless to kill these beasts. The sorcerer tribe army suffered heavy casualties, and the place was filled with wails and roars. They were more familiar with the astral treasure chi than the monster race. Lin Feng had sold a lot of astral treasure chi to the sorcerer tribe, but the quality was incomparable to the southern regions. Therefore, the sorcerer tribe experts were very clear on how to break the astral treasure chi. Kill divine beasts and ferocious beasts? It was useless. As long as the humans who were compatible with the astral treasure Qi didn't die, as long as they still had astral origin energy, the divine beasts and ferocious beasts were endless. But, so what if they knew? Surrounded by divine beasts and ferocious beasts, the sorcerer tribe experts couldn't kill their way out. Even if a few managed to kill their way out, the southern region's human experts were not to be trifled with. Among them, the strongest experts, Shi Jiuyin and Shaman King Gomang, were tied down. They didn't have the strength to act as an arrowhead to break through the southern region's formation. The southern region had the upper hand in the current situation. The 5 human experts who were restraining Shi Jiuyin and Shaman King Gomang contributed greatly, but the biggest contributor was her, Qianlian Huang. She commanded calmly. Although she was young, she already had the demeanor of a great general. Not only did she lead the troops, but she was also able to advance and retreat freely, completely unaffected by the war. Every decision, every change in the battle formation was perfect, as if she was playing chess. In the eyes of the southern region's people, Wan Macho, Xiao Jian, and the other southern region's 5 experts were the most outstanding in this battle. However, among the experts who truly understood the Tao of war, the one who deserved the most credit was Qianlian Huang. At first, I was a little worried. Sitting at the back, Shun Xiao smiled leisurely. His smile carried a sense of carefreeness. It had been a long time since he had felt like this. Feng really has a unique vision. Lin Xiaotian's eyes were slightly bright and he nodded. 2 deputy region masters. Overseeing the entire southern region, he had seen countless people and was very experienced. Qianlian Huang's every move was under observation, especially Shun, who was proficient in the art of formations. If he were to personally lead the battle, he would not be any weaker than Qianlian Huang. However, Lin Feng didn't make Shun the commander of this battle. Shun knew that compared to Qianlian Huang, he was indeed lacking in that aspect. Killing intent, determination. Lin Xiaotian looked at Qianlian Huang's back and said softly, "This child and Feng are a match made in heaven." Shun smiled and nodded, without any hint of jealousy. As the eldest disciple of Emperor Yao, he had nurtured countless human elites. Even though King Lu, who had always been at odds with him, had now become a saint king, he still sincerely congratulated him. In Shun's heart, there was no such thing as himself. There was only the entire southern region, the entire human race. True benevolence and righteousness. This is only her first battle, and she has already shown her talent. Although there are still some flaws, it won't affect the overall situation. I believe that in time, Qianlian Huang's ability to lead the army will surpass that of the Witch Emperor. I originally thought that this little girl was only intelligent and had a strong talent for understanding, but I didn't expect that she would be able to comprehend other things by analogy. No matter what, she is a dragon among men. Even when it comes to marching and fighting, she is not inferior to men. Shun sighed softly. Indeed, she is worthy of being a rare genius of our human race. Lin Xiaotian nodded and looked into the distance, his eyes flashing slightly. The war had been going on for a long time. What he was most concerned about was not who would win the battle between the southern region and the witch tribe, but his son. Don't worry, there will be no problem. Shun looked at Lin Xiaotian and smiled, but there was a hint of reservation in his smile. Lin Feng was facing the witch Emperor Jiang. His fame spread far and wide, and he was worthy of being called the #1 expert in the Douling world. Not long ago, he had defeated the demon commander. How powerful was he? Although Lin Feng was a genius, he was still young. Even if he was a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers, but how could he not be worried? I only hope that Feng can return safely. Lin Xiaotian said softly. The journey was bumpy, and he had already seen through many things. Now, the most important thing in his heart was his family. Shun swept across the front, and his eyes were like torches with a hint of excitement. That's right, as long as Lin Feng doesn't die, the southern region will definitely win this battle. Although it is now a stalemate, with the astral treasure puppet's power, the witch tribe will be defeated soon. Perhaps the southern region will pay a big price this time, but it's worth it. As long as Lin Feng doesn't fall, the southern region will rise. From today onwards, no one can underestimate the southern region and the human race. Clenching his fists, Shun's eyes were full of desire and power. Different from other young talents, he was an expert of the previous generation. He had experienced the 3 declines and 5 disasters of the human race. He had experienced the era when he was like an ant, and he could not bear to look back on it. The human race, who feared the demon race and sought refuge with the witch tribe like slaves, finally saw the light and could control themselves. What kind of progress and transformation was this? He, too, longed to see the rise of the human race, to see the human race become stronger, and now, hope was in front of him. Because of one person, everything had changed. Lin Feng, you must come back alive. Shun's eyes tightened and he thought to himself. In his heart, the young man who used to be like a child was now respected and respected from the bottom of his heart. He had become the well-deserved human emperor. The 2 deputy region masters, who were high and mighty in the southern region, were waiting anxiously in their hearts. In fact, every expert of the southern region who participated in the battle had the same obsession in their hearts, to kill the enemy without caring about their own safety. They knew how powerful Witch Emperor Jiang was, and they knew how powerful the southern region was. Fang Ning, Little Jian, Wan Macho, Jin Ji, and Shi Jixin, the 5 of them restrained the 2 witch kings. Although they had the upper hand, they could not kill them. Lin Feng, on the other hand, restrained the strongest Witch Emperor Jiang alone. The witch tribe's biggest advantage was gone, and whether the southern region could win this battle depended on them. As long as they could defeat the witch tribe army, everything would fall into place. The witch kings and even Witch Emperor Jiang would retreat, and the southern region would win this battle. Kill. Go to hell, witch tribe! For Emperor Lin. The experts of the southern region charged crazily, and under the command of Thousand Love Empress, they went all out. The momentum was already there, and they could not let the witch tribe army turn the tables. Now they did not have to care about the price, and the right way was to defeat the witch tribe army. After all, the astral treasure puppet consumed a lot of star source energy. If this dragged on, the southern region would be in a worse situation. And now it was the peak. Hold on. You must hold on. Yes, the humans are already powerless. As long as we hold on, we will win. The great witch emperor will come to save us. The witch tribe army also exploded with unprecedented cohesion. This cohesion did not need to be stimulated, nor did it need any mobilization, because it already existed in their hearts, and that was Witch Emperor Jiang. No matter how bad the situation was, no matter how desperate the situation was, in the hearts of the witch tribe experts, as long as Witch Emperor Jiang was there, they would be able to turn the situation around, or even turn defeat into victory. An intense battle. The war had truly reached its fiercest moment. Whether it was the experts of the southern region or the witch tribe army, they were all in a killing frenzy. The balance of the battle was unstable, and they were waiting for the last bargaining chip to be pressed down, to decide the difference in strength between the two sides, and to decide the final outcome and fate of the entire battle. Boom! In an instant, an incomparably terrifying power filled the sky. Even in the most intense battlefield, with the deafening sound of killing, the appearance of this power was terrifying enough to destroy heaven and earth. It was high and mighty. It was a human, wearing an extremely ordinary black martial robe. He held a long spear in his hand, which emitted a ferocious indigo light. Astonishing spear chi spread out in all directions, condensed with boiling killing intent, and the power of heaven and earth exploded. His eyes were as dazzling and bright as the stars hanging high in the sky. But the most shocking thing was that in his left hand, he held an existence that made all the experts of the witch tribe speechless, Sky Arc, which Emperor Jiang's most precious treasure. It had once defeated the commander of the demon tribe and repelled the demon tribe army. It could be said to be which Emperor Jiang's proudest and most powerful weapon, but now it had fallen into the hands of this human youth. Which Emperor Jiang is dead. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and he raised the sky arc and shouted. The clanging sound was like thunder, and in an instant, the entire witch tribe army was stunned and tongue-tied. What a joke! Their great witch emperor was dead? How could he die? How could he die? No! Impossible! Human, don't you dare lie! In an instant, angry voices rang out in the witch tribe army. However, this was only a small portion of them. Most of them were in panic, fear, and terror. It was as if a mountain that had always been protecting them had collapsed in an instant. Their screams were shrill, and the army of the shamans was instantly thrown into chaos. They clearly knew about the battle between Lin Feng and Witch Emperor Jiang. Originally, Lin Feng's short sentence was not enough to disturb their hearts, but Lin Feng held the sky arc in his hand. That was a heavenly treasure that was perfectly compatible with Witch Emperor Jiang. Now that it had fallen into Lin Feng's hands, what did it mean? Every expert of the witch tribe might not be willing to admit that Witch Emperor Jiang had fallen, but the truth was the truth, and it could not be changed. Even if Lin Feng created chaos to disturb the army's morale, where did the Witch Emperor go? If he did not even want the sky arc, why did the Witch Emperor not appear? As long as one thought about it, the mystery would be solved. There was only one answer: Witch Emperor Jiang had fallen. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.